Meet the most capable CR-V Honda has ever dreamed of. The all-new CR-V Trail Sport Hybrid. With all-terrain tires and available enhanced traction control, it's built for wherever the day takes you. Heated front seats and a heated steering wheel? Ideal for winter drives and crisp early starts. And with generous cargo space, it's ready for big gear and even bigger getaways. The CR-V Trail Sport Hybrid. Learn more at honda.com/CRV.
Crystal clear waters, white sandy beaches. Stress doesn't exist here, but back home, an undetected water leak can turn into costly water damage. Mow and Flow detects leaks and stops your water main automatically from anywhere, even paradise.
Ray-Ban Meta glasses are powered by Meta AI, so you can get real-time answers.
Hey, Meta, how bougie is Jade Garden?
It's a trendy spot.
What's a color that pairs with this top?
Consider dark, earthy colors, charcoal or black.
What are some good first date topics?
Consider discussing favorite travel destinations or your favorite books.
Get suggestions, inspiration, and answers from your glasses. Ray-Ban Meta glasses. Iconic style meets Meta AI.
Living with schizophrenia isn't easy, especially when you're not getting relief from some of your symptoms. It can be hard when you're still dealing with symptoms, like hearing voices or seeing things that aren't there. And negative symptoms, like feeling unmotivated or avoiding social situations. If this sounds familiar, it might be time to talk to your healthcare provider and explore a different kind of schizophrenia treatment. Discover your possibilities at treatingscz.com.
Get your mother-loving ears on because your big-time radio DJ's got news. PayPal lets you choose how you want to pay for all the stuff. With PayPal, I can pay in-store, pay online, or pay over time. What's that? You want this translated into song? I hope you're sitting down. You can pay your own way. You keep those ears on, you hear? Don't just pay, baby. PayPal.
Learn more at paypal.com.
Hello and welcome to Islanders Anxiety from Lighthouse Hockey and the Fans First Sports Network. My name is Dan Saracini. Joining me on this, Thursday evening via Zencaster is my friend Michael Leboff. We don't talk very often on Thursdays, and by the time you're hearing this, it is the 4th of July. Normally not time to think about hockey, but the Islanders have been very busy this week. The NHL has been very busy with free agency a couple of days ago. We're going to recap what the Islanders did. We're going to talk about what the rest of the league did. We're going to cover some of the AHL signings that were made, including a couple of assistant coaches. We're going to rag on TSN's free agency frenzy, which is one of my favorite things to do all the time. We have a lot to cover in what will be our season finale for the main feed and Uncle Tier feed. Mike, as we sit here today with the Islanders, with a lot of new faces, both in the big club and in the affiliate club, how do you feel about the team right now? I'm not going to have you make any like grand pronunciations that they're better or worse than next year. Obviously, there's a long time to go before they hit the ice for real. But how do you feel, generally speaking, about the Islanders right now?
I feel surprised at how I feel, right? Like, I feel surprised at how it's not even optimism, like energized I feel about it. I think that you and I have said time and time again that like the Lou Lamoriello and Barry Trotz era of the Islanders was incredibly important for them for so many reasons. And I think we're seeing the dividends getting paid on that even now. And I'm not saying this is all about Barry and Lou, but it's about what they did for the franchise, which was, they didn't make a destination. It's not there's no free agents who are clamoring to come play for the Islanders. There are a few, but there's no Mitch Marner type, right? Like
Right.
it's the same. They're not on that list yet, right?
We saw another one today.
Right. Yes, exactly. Yeah, they're not on that list yet. I'm not saying that, but what they did was they completely they guided this team through a process that turned it from a team that when something happened like the Max Shabanov, we'll get that down soon. It's we got a couple months. But when the Islanders would find their way into a move like that, the Chris Osgood signing, the John winning the lottery to select Tavares, like when those things happened to the teams, it felt like complete one-offs and outliers, right? This is the good thing that happened. This is a lucky break the Islanders caught this decade, right? Like that's how it felt. And I think because they're now on a stable ground, they've got a home, they've got stable ownership. They had two very steady hands kind of guide them through a huge transition period from the aforementioned guy we drafted before, Victor Hedman, and the new arena to now, like the core flipping over again. Because they had a steady hands on the wheel, the Islanders were a place that good things could happen to. Like they were set up for good things. And it didn't really hit me until, I guess, the Max Shabanov signing. Just how different things are now in the 7 weeks or so that it's been in. It feels very different, but at the same time, like the kind of foundation is the same. And I'm like growing to appreciate that foundation more and more with every signing and every move and every break that the Islanders caught this summer. I've appreciated the foundation that we have more and more. And these guys are doing a great job. Like I can't. Can you think of any reason to be mad at what the Islanders have done? Basically since, I don't know, winning the lottery. I don't think so. Like they're in such a good spot all of a sudden. And so they're in a good spot on the ice with the personnel, with the roster. The cap looks in good shape. And they also are, like I said, I've been saying this whole time, they also have this like stability blanket over them. So all of this stuff has made me like really encouraged. And that's usually not a place I find myself in the summer when it comes to the Islanders.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, it's because they're ticking so many boxes for fans to be re-energized, to be reinvested and all that. And that's usually not what happens. I mean, even under Lou, we would just wait. Be like, the draft happened, nothing, whatever happened at the draft happened. July 1st came, the Islanders didn't do anything. We'll just wait till September to see what's going on. And obviously the eras before that, July 1st was about the PA Parentos of the world, right? So it's good. I mean, it's all good right now, which they haven't played. I don't know if I ever want them to play again, and ruin it. But
yeah, right.
For now, at this moment, it feels like the Islanders can't hurt us, which those are famous last words.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, this is sometimes the best time of year, I think re-energized is a good word because I think I've seen people are optimistic. To answer your question, the biggest thing is the Dobson trade. And I mean, you and I, as we spoke about at length in our last episode, we're not sad to see Noah Dobson go. We've seen a lot of people basically echo the same feeling like, yeah, okay, well, he didn't want to be here and he was certainly a flawed player. And, I think it's time to move on. We definitely didn't want to pay him $11 million a year. So it's time to move on. And I think, there's a bit of concern for the Romanov contract we'll get to in a little bit. But otherwise, I was thinking about this. I don't have New York Post Plus. I'm sorry, but Ethan Sears had. I saw the headline. They let you look at the headlines, because they want you to sign up, I guess. And Ethan Sears' headline was like something about, I think, Darsh trying to thread a bunch of different needles or like do a bunch of different things at once, and it made me think about that. He is trying to do a bunch of things at once, and I think for the most part, he's kind of succeeding. Like Lou Lamoriello said before he left that the team needed to get younger and faster. That was just obvious to anybody that had watched a game. And like you said, I mean, we've gotten accustomed to off seasons where not much happens, which is how you end up becoming a slow old team, which is what the Islanders kind of were last year. And so Matthew Darche has come in, and he's built a team that's got a lot of speed, a lot more speed on it. We'll talk about some of the new recruits in a little bit. He's also gotten guys that were much younger. I mean, a year ago, we had Cole Eiserman to talk about, maybe Matthew Maggio, maybe Alex Jeffries. Isaiah George came up and looked pretty good, but like, that's 4 guys in their entire system. Obviously, Bridgeport had a terrible, terrible season. We'll talk about their coaching staff situation in a second, in a little bit as well. But now you've got Cal Ritchie from the Brock Nelson trade. Obviously, Matthew Schaefer can't drop to them. Victor Eklund is here now. Sean Aitchison is here now. And Daniel Prokhorov is here now. We saw a lot of these guys in a scrimmage the other day, which is another mind-blowing thing. I want to talk about that in the second half as well. And so that mandate is sort of getting fulfilled. It's not perfect right now. We don't know what these guys are going to be, but you want to get younger. You want to get some more prospects. Well, here they are. Their cap situation is not terrible. I mean, they still have a couple of guys to sign. A lot of the guys they signed now were for short contracts. And Darche even said, I'm looking 2-3 years ahead. I'm not really looking, that far ahead. So I think that's pretty good. Somebody's going to need to get traded probably at some point. And it's just a different look. It feels like the team is turning the corner, and it's not going to feel the same. It's not going to feel like it's the same team for 5 years, which is sort of what it felt, even though guys would come in and out, Kyle McLean here or Pierre Engvall there, or whatever. It feels like the team is about to be different in a meaningful way. And Patrick Waugh even said today something that also kind of made me think too. He talked about how this upcoming training camp is going to be really interesting because there's going to be real competition. There's going to be real guys. We have a lot of guys in, he said, and they're all going to be trying for the same few spots. Some guys aren't going to make it, and that's good. That's a good thing to have, is competition and having to send guys down because somebody else was better. Like, we haven't had that problem in a long time. Like, you could pencil in, right in pen the Islanders starting lineup every season because we just knew. This year it's going to be different. Now we have a new import as well from Russia to, go along with last year's import from Russia. So, I think re-energize is a good word. It's, you might not be feeling totally optimistic right now, and that's fair. I mean, Jesus, It's July, for Christ's sake. But it's, I think there's enough changes here to make you think, hey, at least it'll be a different team. Right? Yeah. And maybe that's a good thing too.
Yeah, it's not optimism, right? Like that's what I think so interesting, right? It's not the kind of cut and dry black and white optimism. Like, okay, this team is good. They made a couple shrewd additions at the deadline or at the free agency. They're going into the season as a cup favorite. That's optimism, right? This is more. It's intrigue, which is good because there's been very little of that,
right?
With this team for a very long time. So, like I'm excited to be intrigued about the Islanders. And there was a time when I just loved the stability factor. I loved going back to war with the same kind of guys, with the same ethos, and tapping JG Pageau on the shoulder every time we needed to win a big faceoff in the defensive zone. And it didn't matter that it wasn't working after a while. I just, there was something romantic about it. And a lot of us went down with the ship, but the great thing about sports is like the ship pops back up for the next season, and here we are. And and it's really exciting to see where the ship ends up going, because I think the Islanders have turned into something they haven't been in a long time, which is a high ceiling, low floor team. For a long time, the Islanders were a high floor, low ceiling team. Boomer Gordon always had a great line on his radio show on NHL Network about the Islanders, which was, the Islanders had a good season when they got 94 points, and they had a bad season when they got 92 points. and I think that now the error bars are so wide for where this team can end up, because the guys that they've brought in mixed with whoever's going to be left from the old guard. And as you said, like it feels like the Islanders have 39 players.
Oh yeah. Like, I'm on their Puckpedia page now, and there's a lot of dudes here. Like,
it's like they're gonna try to. Hey, I was joking around with our buddy Matt about it. I was like, they should just dress 28 guys. See, try to get away with it. Just go for it. What are they gonna do? Like, make it not do it? But yeah, I mean that's it. A lot of the guys that they brought into this mass, army that's gathering are unknowns in a good way. I mean,
Yeah.
Emil Heineman seems like the type of player that people are in a year from now, people are like, I knew he was going to be good. What that's the type of player that I wish my team would have added. And
Yeah.
obviously Max Shabanov could be anything. We have no idea what he's going to turn into. We have no idea even about Anthony Duclair, who should feel like somebody that I mean, you could scoff at this and say I'm crazy, but I think you can make the same argument for Pierre Engvall. Like Pierre Engvall has all the tools in the world that you can just see one season it clicking for him. I've always said, like, there's just going to be one season where he pops. I mean, Casey Cizikas scored 20 goals for Christ's sake one season, right? Like Engvall could get there with his tools. So, and I mean, you can really just go down the list and there's very little that you can feel very confident in projecting. I mean, Bo Horvat, that's really about it. I think he's like the only player that I think you can kind of draw a straight line if he's healthy to what his season looks like.
Probably, yeah.
I think maybe I mean, you can't really even do it with Barzal. He's coming off the injury. Yeah. I mean, Anders Lee had a great bounce back year, but the year before that, he wasn't very good.
Right. Even the goalies, like, we don't know. We have no idea what Varlamov's status is. Sorokin might be a Vezina candidate, or he might just be sort of okay. Like,
yes. And then, I mean, the blue line is the same thing. So, I mean, and that could be a terrible thing, right? To just have a lot of guys that you just don't really know how it works out, or it could be a good thing. And I don't know. Yeah, it's starting to it's just starting to feel very fresh and fun and intriguing, which it's nice. And I mean, can you imagine if I showed you this Puckpedia page, even on like January 1st of this past year, you'd be like, hey, like, I'm like, hey, Dan, I'm from the season finale episode of Islanders Anxiety on July 3rd, here's the Islanders roster. Like, well, I haven't heard of like 6 of these guys.
Yeah. Where the hell did Jonathan Drouin come from? So, No, I think, I think to your point, like, intrigue is good. A bit of different, players coming in and out is good. It keeps things fresh. You don't want to get too stale, which is definitely what the Islanders were for too long. But you do need stability. You do need a base of operations to work with. And the Islanders had that in spades with Lou Lamoriello, the unmoving base of operations of the NHL. But they just became a little bit too stale. And we're seeing maybe the beginnings of getting both of those things, the stable base of operations, but also, hey, listen, we got to get some new guys in here. Like, we got to do some different things because last year was not acceptable. Yeah. And, we got to set up for the future, obviously, too.
I should have, and when I was doing that little, spiel at the beginning, I should have honestly given credit to like Anders Lee and, I was saying it was Lamoriello and Trotz era, but it really is like the Lamoriello, Trotz, Lee kind of, captain and 2 alternate captains group.
Lee Pulick Pellick is probably how the best way to put it, right?
Yeah, and like they've steadied the ship. Like we're gonna talk. I think we'll talk a lot about the development camp and like just what's going on over there this week. And I think that there's so much goodwill coming out of it, and I actually think that Lee. And it sounds funny to give Lamoriello credit because he was a guy who put a stop to the development camp scrimmage in the summer, right? But like the way that it's being the way the franchise is being talked about by these players, those guys deserve a ton of credit for that, and Lee especially. Yeah. And I think that's the fun that makes this even more intriguing is they still do have that stability, and that's what the point I was trying to make off the top is. There's a lot of this intrigue. There's a lot of these kind of guys who could pop in either direction on this roster, but what is making me feel kind of like warm and fuzzy inside is that there's still that spine of Islanders. Like this is still an Islanders team when you see Anders Lee and I mean we're assuming all these guys are back, and I will assume for now, but like Lee, Pajot, Cizikas, Palmieri, Pulock, Pellick, Mayfield, so Horvat, Barzal. Like it's good to see that spine is still there for the the fireworks to go off around it.
Yeah. I also watched a video today of Matt Martin, the special assistant to the general manager, giving what had to be the longest media conference of his career. It's either that or the one where he announced his retirement. But he talked about he's just learning the ropes and how much he's learning that it takes a village to run a hockey team and everybody who's got different responsibilities, and it's sort of opening his eyes because when you're a player, you don't think about that kind of stuff. And I mean, we love Matt Martin. Obviously, we wish him nothing but the best. Apparently he has some eyes on being a GM one day. And all I can think about is, well, it's either him or Lee, because I feel like Anders Lee is going to literally, whenever he retires, and I mean, doesn't look like it's going to be anytime soon. He's literally going to just walk off the ice, take off his skates, put on a pair of shoes, and walk into an office and on whatever it is. Where's their offices? Old Country Road, wherever it is, Floral Park, whatever. And just get a job. Like, that's what it's going to be. Like, I can totally see Anders Lee doing that, because he's the best ambassador this team has had in a very, very long time, and as guys like, unfortunately we've lost Clark Gillies, obviously, who was also the best ambassador the team had, but guys like Bobby Nystrom and Steve Webb and Benoit Hogue and Aaron Asham, and Eric Cairns, these kinds of guys who do like community stuff, Anders Lee is going to join them without question. Hickey's already there. Bailey's already there. Clutterbuck is already there. Lee will also be among that group, and I think he'll be here a long, long time. I don't think he's going anywhere. Honestly, I think this is the last year of his contract. But I'm feeling he's just going to sign some $1 million deal to stay at the end of the year. I have no confidence he's going to get traded at all. Pajot, different story. Okay, I don't want to talk about that though. This was a very long opening, but listen, it's the 4th of July. You're barbecuing. You're on a boat. You're sitting around the house watching a hot dog eating competition. You got plenty of time. So anyway, this is going to be probably a long episode. Reminder that we are on Patreon at patreon.com/IslandersAnxiety. Sign up even during the summer, because you're going to get bonus episodes. You're going to get written posts. We've been doing chats now, which have been a lot of fun. And you're going to have all kinds of stuff all summer long. So don't hesitate to sign up. Patreon.com/IslandersAnxiety, because we're there all year long, even though if you're a listener to the main feed, the free feed, or the Uncle Tier feed at the Patreon, this is probably going to be the last episode you're going to get. So sign up for the Country Club tier so you can get everything. Okay, enough of that. We're going to talk in this first half about the guys who the Islanders signed, and then we'll get into the AHL guys in the second half. We'll go right in the league as well over there. I feel like there's really two guys that we can start with, both defensemen. I'll give you the choice. Do we want to go the long-term extension for Alex Romanov, or do you want to start with the short-term extension for our weirdest Islander of the year, Tony DeAngelo?
Yeah, let's start with. I think let's start with Tony. I think Romanov's kind of I don't know. I think you go through Tony's a little. We could get through pretty quick.
Yeah,
that's the point. I think it just makes sense, right? Like we talked about, all the baggage and the discourse that was flying around when the Islanders, everyone's, the discourse that was flying around when the Islanders signed Tony DeAngelo out of the KHL. So you said the Islanders have had 2 Russian imports, but Shabanov became the 3rd guy from the KHL that they signed in the past calendar year, which is so funny. And so we talked about that baggage, and there was all this, hubbubaloo. Tony DeAngelo shows up, and then he played just like a very normal, competent game on the ice that night. And we were like, wow, that was incredibly normal. And everything kind of just shut up from there. And I feel the same way about this deal, kind of.
Yeah.
It's just like a very normal extension. They needed another right shot. I think it makes sense to have him and Boquist kind of be the 2 guys that fight for that number 6 role and run the power play. Do I think that Tony DeAngelo is going to end up as Matthew Schaefer's defense partner for most of the season? I would say no. But I do think that he's on his last chance. He knows that. He's acknowledged it. With Lou gone, it's there's maybe a little more, it becomes a little more risky that he colors outside the lines. And Tony, of course, has done that quite a bit in his career. But when you kind of strip everything out and you just look at the player, and the stats, the skill set, you're like, well, that makes a lot of sense for this blue line. And especially at this price, 1 year, 1.75, if it goes south, it's very easy to get rid of.
Yep.
If the Islanders go south and Tony's okay, you could trade it at the deadline and anyone could fit that. And so, yeah, I mean, totally fine. I think totally fine. And now it's, we talked about, I spent a couple minutes talking about having no idea what to expect from any player. In a weird way, I feel like I know exactly what to expect from Tony DeAngelo next season, which is crazy to me to be saying. Like, oh yeah, it's Horvat, probably the most easy to predict. Then DeAngelo, like he's gonna be a point every other game type player, and but you're gonna be paying for those points with some really shoddy defense at times. So I'm totally fine with it, with how it kind of slots in this kind of picture.
Yeah. And you're 100% right. And like, that was, again, the crux of our weirdest Islander of the year conversation that we had about Tony, which is that for as weird as it was that he was here, and it was as weird as it was how he got here, he just played like a normal guy. Like, I wouldn't call him awesome. I wouldn't say, oh, he was great. He was normal. He was a totally normal offensive only defenseman playing for the Islanders. And like, they hadn't had that in a long time. And he ends up with 20, he had 19 points in 35 games. So about a half a point a game. I suspect that if he plays the entire season with the Islanders, he'll probably end up somewhere between, say, 35 and 45 points. Like, that's probably what's going to happen, right?
Which is where Noah Dobson ended up last year.
Exactly. They brought him in because everybody was hurt. They needed somebody who kind of knew how to run a power play or work a power play. Tony kind of fits that bill. They don't have a lot of right-handed defensemen, again, because of the Dobson trade. To me, it's in the same vein that it was weird that Tony DeAngelo, of all people, had such a normal run with the Islanders. It's weird to me to say this, but the Tony DeAngelo contract the Islanders signed this week is almost risk-free. Like, I know it sounds weird to describe Tony DeAngelo as risk-free, but you said it. It's 1 year, $1.75 million. If he stinks, they could send him down to Bridgeport, waive him. Who cares? It's $1.75 million. Who cares? If he's good and they stink, well, guess what? They could trade him at the deadline to somebody else who needs some power play help or whatever, and everybody can just move on. Like, there's not a ton of risk here outside on the ice. Outside of the ice, there's some risk. But you know what? The other thing I was thinking of too is, like, now that Tony has been in the Islanders locker room and he knows these guys and he's talked to these guys. And we talked about this on that episode too, how, like, Robin Leonard was almost kind of in the same boat as Tony, not quite, but like, a guy with a reputation that had kind of preceded him a little bit. And I feel like, I wonder if the players, much like in Leonard's case, the players are going to keep him in line. Again, it's different in that, Leonard didn't have the sort of outspokenness that Tony does, but when Leonard was here, the players wouldn't drink on road trips. They would, treat him in a way that made him feel comfortable and made him feel welcome in this place that, after a very trying year before that. And I feel like Tony now knows these guys and understands them and kind of, again, the Lees and Barzels and Horvats of the world that can, again, he's a grown man. He can make his own decisions, obviously, but like, I feel like he sees them and he kind of adjusts his own behavior accordingly to kind of fit in with them. Yeah. And they too, they give him a little bit of respect. He gives them the respect, and it's okay. So even without Lou, I think it should be okay. Yeah. But again, if it's not okay, goodbye. Like, it's really not that hard to say goodbye with this contract.
It's who else was kind of like that before he came to the Islanders, and this was a couple of eras ago, but what Cal Clutterbuck showed up, right? Like, he was known as good. He was a good locker room guy, but like a loud,
but like reckless,
reckless guy, and came to the Islanders and was still that guy, but at the same time was fit in perfectly in this locker room that kind of just keeps everybody in check, because like, you're just not going to find a willing combatant among these guys. Like, what are you going to do? Pick a fight with Scott Mayfield? No, Scott's gonna be like, dude, I'm okay. Like, it's not a big deal. Like, I just gotta, I want to go walk my dog down 7th Avenue and go to bed. Like, it's fine. Or like, oh, you're gonna act up? Well, then you're not coming to the Nelson's birthday party over the weekend. So, we can't trust you around the kids. Right. So that's what it's you said it. It's this is what the Islanders can do to everyone, is they can take Tony DeAngelo situation and make it feel risk free.
Yeah.
And
which is crazy again.
Yeah, exactly. Like it's and it would be so funny to explain that to somebody outside of the Islanders.
Right.
Like, oh, you guys signed Tony DeAngelo? Like, how's that going to work? I'm like,
right.
Probably just fine.
Yeah, right. And listen, like we also said on that Weirdest Islanders episode, we don't want to hang out with the guy. Like I don't, you said it right. Our college essays would be very different than Tony's. But that's okay. Like it's okay. He's here to play, and if it doesn't work out, they can cut him loose with very, very little strings attached.
and now to kind of bring this into the Romanov conversation, because I think this is actually an important point for Tony, which for both of them, which is this is now the second regime for him, right? Like he had to, Lou signed him, Lou brought him in, Lou made him, that they had they looked each other in the eye. That was the line. They looked each other in line and had like an honest conversation. Like that was Lou, and he was a unrestricted free agent. Probably could have got the same exact contract with 20 other teams in the league who could use a right shot D. And the new Matthew Darsh and Ryan Bonus and kind of crew said no, like this is kosher by us too. And I think that's important for Romanov. Lou traded for him. Lou traded the first round pick for Romanov. Him and Lambert and then Wah have bestowed on him a pretty big role on this blue line. He's now the highest paid defenseman on the blue line, and he got this contract from a new regime, like not the guy who went out and got him. This is so fresh set of eyes determined that he was worth this, and same goes with Tony. And I think that's really important because it's very easy. It would be very easy for Matthew Darsh. I mean, he's done it with Fashing and Mike Riley, who we can kind of talk about later. And who knows about a couple of the guys who actually are under contract for next year and maybe get shipped out. But it'd be easy for him to say like, oh, well, I just, I have a built-in excuse not to bring back Tony DeAngelo. I wasn't here when they got him. And, he's just not, he doesn't fit into my kind of point of view. Oh, Alexander Romanov, we didn't want to give him this long-term deal because, I need to get to know the player, or he's not part of the picture, the big picture that I think. So, to get that vote of confidence from the new guy, I guess so did Patrick Waugh, right? Like to get that vote of confidence from the new guy is, I think, really important for Romanov.
Yeah, no, that's a good way to put it. I also, one last thing on Tony before I move on to Romanov myself is don't forget too, Tony had a family situation that he wanted to stay close to. He's from Jersey. That's one of the reasons the Islanders made sense for him. So I'm sure that played into it as well. Him coming back. It was a surprise to see. I didn't because of exactly what you just said.
Right.
Matthew Darsh had absolutely no obligation to sign him to another contract, but I guess he must have talked it over with Waugh talked glowingly about DeAngelo today and his availability. So I'm sure there was a lot of input there.
You know what's crazy? I was just talking about this when you were about. It's crazy that he's the risk-free. He feels risk-free. Yeah. And how the Islanders can do that. Another thing that's crazy about Tony, which is complete bizarre world for me, is that he's not only washed the stink of the Rangers off of his sweater, like he hates the Rangers.
Yeah,
I wouldn't be surprised if he's joining us for like when we did Ranger Peace Theaters and having a real laugh, because this guy hates the Rangers. He hates the Rangers, and that will buy you some goodwill among Islander fans, no matter how they view you as a human being. So finding common ground is incredibly important when it comes to getting through life, and we have some serious common ground here with Tony, and we have the same enemy. So that's great.
Again, could not have foreseen happening.
Right? Like to me, he was like the most Ranger ever, because it was so easy to hate when he was on the Rangers, and I'm like, and now he's hates the Rangers just like us.
Just goes to show you. We're going to have a little bit more about a similar story on that coming up in a little bit as well. But back to Romanov. So actually, I got to credit our pal Ryan at Skates to the Stakes, because they had an episode and they talked about this before he signed the extension. And he was like, I think people are going to be a little bit surprised at the size and years of this Romanov extension. And he was right, because when it came out at 8 years, $6.25 million, I was taken aback. Like I was like, wow, really? I don't know what number we talked about on the last episode, but I think it was around 5 maybe or so. So This was a lot. We're going to get to some other contracts that were signed during free agency that made this look a lot better within the second half as well. He missed about 20 games, played 64 games, 4 goals, 16 assists with the Islanders. But like with Romanov, it's always about the hits. He is, I would say, next to Matt Barzal, the most exciting player the Islanders have. Like, would you agree with that? Like, I feel like every time Romanov's on the ice, there's a chance that some kind of cool thing happens, much like with Barzal. And of course, Barzal missed basically the entire season last year. Is he a replacement for Noah Dobson? No, he's a completely different player. But I think there's a lot to like about the player. I think this is a contract that for a player of his type, say second pairing, maybe first pairing in certain circumstances, light scoring, but he's got a bit of a touch, but he doesn't score a lot, hits a lot, is pretty good defensively, but not like, shut down defensively. In other words, a totally normal second pair defenseman. This is the going rate for that. And I think people kind of need to understand that. I'm not trying to sound like a smart guy, but like, this is sort of the way these guys are going to get paid now, especially with the cap going up. And so the more I thought about it, the more I was like, yeah, I'm okay with this. I'm still a little freaked out by 8 years. And that's a lot product of the long contracts they have on the books. Obviously, Pelech and Pulick still are on the books for a long time. Scott Mayfield's still working on that 7-year contract that will haunt our dreams forever. But I think this might end up being okay. Now, with Romanov, he's got to stay healthy. And that is, also the kiss of death right there as well. More famous last words. We've heard that before. And a contract that was 15 years specifically, as opposed to 8 years. But if he's healthy and he continues to do what he can do and maybe even progress, I mean, the dude is still only 25 years old. I think this should be okay. I don't think this will be the anchor or the albatross that I think a lot of people seem to make it out to be. But again, if you saw some of the contracts that came out 2 days later in free agency, you're probably thinking, hey, you know what? That Romanov deal isn't that bad. What'd you think when you first saw the deal? Were you shocked? Were you like, wow, that's a lot? Or were you like, well, that makes a lot of sense? Or were you like, hey, that's a great deal?
I was happy because I just love, how I was saying before, it's really hard I think it's really hard right now to be upset or find like a reason to be mad about where the state of the Islanders right now. I would say the same thing about Romanov as like a hockey player, hockey character. Like he's a flawed player, but everyone's a flawed player. His flaws are that, as you said, like he's limited offensively, I'd say. I think he's got good offensive instincts, but his he's not gonna be an Adrian O'Coin type. But and he can be an adventure in his own end without the puck. I actually think he's decent with the puck in his own end, which he's really improved on. Putting aside that, like the scouting report on Alex Romanov, the person and the New York Islander player is awesome. Like he's a rock star on the ice. And you said him and Barzal are the most exciting players. I think that's it would sound crazy to, once again, another thing that just sounds weird to say, but has a lot of truth to it. Right. Or I should say it sounds weird to hear out loud, but has a lot of truth to it, is that I think you're pretty close to right in that. Yeah, he himself isn't the most exciting, but when he steps on the ice, he gives you the most exciting minutes of the game, along with Barzal, because he could hip check someone, he could leave the shift like smiling through blood in his mouth, right. And or he can leave someone else bleeding in their mouth. And I do think it's important to remember, and this is a bone that I've had to pick with hockey media and sports media forever, which is that players can get better and they can get worse, right? Like it happens. They don't just because Alex Romanov had this season and these were his stats doesn't mean that he's going to be that player next season. Yeah, right. I mean, a perfect example for him and it would be Nico Mikkola, who morphed into Chris Pronger during the as soon as he put on the Panthers uniform, and especially this. I mean, he was incredible in these playoffs, and there's a lot of similarity in the two games. Like they're physical, they're in your face. I think Mikkola is a little bigger than Romanov, but still, like they're not terrible skaters. They can move the puck. They can contribute in so many different ways. and they are going to melt your face with like a guitar solo every once in a while. It's fun. Like, it's fun to have him on the team. So I'm happy for Romanov. I think he understands the mission. I also think it's important that he signed that deal because of what happened a couple of days later. That the Islanders are we've been joking around the different mafias that they are collecting here. They had the French Canadian mafia with Wah and his guys behind the bench and a couple of the players. Then the Swedish mafia came out of nowhere. The Islanders didn't have a Swede for years and years and years.
Right.
And then it was like Holmstrom was here, and he was like, yeah, we finally have a Swedish player. And all of a sudden, there's Swedes everywhere. Out went the Minnesota mafia, in came the Swedish mafia, and of course they've got this. They have maybe the deepest Russian mafia.
Yep.
In the NHL. Like, this is hilarious, and I think that's important because they're next year when the next Max Siplikov and Max Shabanov pops up. Even if the Islanders aren't interested, people will be like, well, he'll probably just go to the Islanders because they've got all these guys. They're at the Banyas in Brighton Beach.
Yeah.
And
it feels like this has been a long time coming. Like, this should have happened during the Grabowski-Kulemin era, but it really didn't. Now it's happening. Yeah,
right. So I think that's also important to remember. But yeah, I mean, this is fine by me. And you said it's kind of the going rate. Is he their best defenseman? I don't think so. I still think Adam Pelech is probably their best defenseman. But should he be the highest paid? I think so because of his age, kind of what he brings, and his importance just to what their overall mission is. So
well, he's only making $100,000 more than Ryan Pulock, so it's not like
Does Ryan Pulock deserve that salary? Different story. That's a different conversation.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, again, at first I was shocked by it. Just the sticker price was like, whoa, really? And then as I thought about it and thought more about other guys, what they were getting, and just the total Romanov package, I was like, you know what? I think this is probably going to be okay. And I don't think it's going to be a total disaster in it, or like a albatross, or like, a stone around the neck, whatever your preferred analogy is. I think it'll be totally fine. And he wants to be here. And that's actually a good point. We're going to get to Shabanov in a little bit. But the fact that Romanov is here, Sorokin, Varlamov still, maybe not on the ice, but definitely as a voice in the locker room, then leads to Siplikov, now Shabanov. I mean, I think it's obviously there's a connection there, and that it works for them.
One last point on him too is that I think every era of Islanders, especially ones that have had like even an iota of success, and iota could mean taking the Buffalo Sabres all the way to the 5th game of the first round of the playoffs.
Right.
They have a guy who on the blue line that the fan base just rallies around. And usually their physical hulking presence is so like Brendan Witt, Travis Hamonic when he was here, Boychuk, Romanov.
Sure.
I think Boychuk and Romanov are actually really good comp for one. Like, it would have been amazing if they got to play together. But I think that that's who he is. Like, it's very easy to say he's the Darius Kasparaitis of this generation, but he kind of is. But he's also the Johnny Boychuk. He's the Russian Johnny Boychuk.
Yeah.
So, and who doesn't want to have that around?
I wish he had a slap shot like Johnny Boychuk.
Yeah.
But no, I think there's a lot of connective tissue there. That makes a lot of sense. Why don't we talk about the other big re-signing, and then we'll talk about the newcomers in one group as well. I think it was free agency day. No, it was the day after free agency when the Islanders announced that forward Simon Holmstrom had also re-signed to a 2-year, $3.6 million AAV contract. To me, this was maybe the clearest home run that they had all week, in a week in which Darsh, had put a lot of hits out in the field. To me, this Holmstrom contract was just absolutely fantastic. I was expecting a lot worse and a lot higher, but 2 years at 3.6 is really, really good. He is still an RFA at the end of the 2 years. And I already saw people complaining like, they're going to have to pay him a lot more when that happens. He's going to take him to the cleaners. Okay. So what? Like, in the event that Simon Holmstrom becomes like a 35 goal scorer and gets, nominated for the Selke Trophy, and the Islanders have to pay him a ton of dough. Okay, good. That's the way it's supposed to work. And maybe somebody else gets kicked off the team, and because now they've got a guy who's really, really good. So I'm totally fine with the bridge deal here. Holmstrom has come a long way since being the guy who was drafted with the big when they drafted him. It took a while. He was super young in the AHL, struggling, but he's become a really, really good piece of this team. He kills penalties. Again, the Islanders' penalty killing is terrible, but he's a shorthanded wizard in the goal scoring department, along with JG Pajot. He's, just kind of got a bit of a goofy, also, air about him. I was super happy with this. I mean, he had 20 goals last year. You knew he was going to get paid something. If he can have a season like last year, another, 18, 20 goals, another 25, somewhere 28 assists, maybe 30 assists, that's a hell of a deal. And the guy's also good defensively. I don't know what else you could want more from this guy. I was just as skeptical as anybody when they drafted him, but super happy he's here. Love the contract. And I'm totally happy to be paying this guy twice as much in 2 years if he deserves it. I'll be absolutely happy to do that. What do you think of this one? And to me, again, is this the clearest home run? Maybe some other ones, but I don't know. To me, this was just like, damn, that was awesome.
Yeah, I mean, because I think the other one you could say would be getting Max Shabanov, but he's such an unknown in the NHL. But it's just like the kind of perception of that deal, and landing the biggest KHL free agent that beating out 9 other teams, etc. But we have no idea what to expect. Whereas Holmstrom, I think we have a pretty good idea that he's an NHL player, where as Shabanov we don't, and a damn good NHL player. And he's also, this is one for the good guys. And a reminder that when we're complaining about coverage around the draft and, trade deadline grades and free agency signing grades to a lesser extent, I should say, is that it's not that I'm mad about that there's analysis of it, right? You're not going to have a draft and everyone just be like, oh, that was fun. We'll talk about it in 5 years. Like, that's not what we're expected. But what I can't stand is that a guy like Simon Holmstrom gets drafted by the Islanders, and he's a reach in the middle of the second round to a lot of people, and people are laughing at them. And it works out, and nobody's like, I got that one wrong, right? Like, and it's not going to be like that when it happens.
Right.
I think that kind of the consensus approach to the draft now is that you're supposed to kind of go for reaches in the middle of the first round now. Everyone's like, well, middle first round picks aren't all that valuable. You should just go get your guy. And that's exactly what the Islanders did, 5 years before it became in vogue to do that. And it's paid off handsomely for them. And I think Holmstrom has every reason to be included in the most underrated NHL player conversation that everyone was sick of having, because when people have that conversation, they just talk about the same 3 players every year. It was Joe Pavelski forever, then it was Sasha Barkov forever, and none of the guys that are ever in these conversations are actually underrated players that show up to UBS Arena once a year, like, oh, I don't know that guy, he's having a great game, and then you read, you're like, oh, he's having a good season for the Flames. I think Holmstrom's that guy for the Islanders, like, really good player, great hands. You can visibly see him getting better, with kind of like each passing year, each passing week, each passing game. This should work out, and I like the way that this is structured, because maybe, as I just said, just because he had a good season last season doesn't mean he's going to build on that. He could get hurt. There's a million things that could happen one way or the other. So this gives you flexibility. And as you said, if he has such a good 2 years that the Islanders have to worry about paying him $9 million a season, that's a good problem to have, because as we just saw with Noah Dobson, there's other ways out of that than just either forking over the money or letting that person walk you to free agency. So, this was a home run.
Yeah, I think so too. And yes, I'm waiting for Scott Wheeler and what's his name, Corey Pronman, to write their athletic articles about how they were wrong about Simon Holmstrom. I'll keep waiting. I'll keep holding my breath.
Yeah.
So those are the re-signs. We can start with a new guy who was, in a sense, re-signed, and a guy who I think might end up being sort of in the Holmstrom mold, and that is Emil Heineman, who came over in the Dobson trade. another depth forward, but a guy who had 10 goals last year, has a real good motor, according to most Habs fans, likes to go in the corners, isn't afraid to kind of mix it up, in the slot and things like that. Got a 2-year contract extension with a $1.1 million AAV. Again, this is a risk-free deal. We don't know anything about Emil Heineman. I'm not going to pretend like I know this guy's game. I can only go by what Habs fans are saying, and they're all like, "Oh, you're going to love this guy. He doesn't stop skating and doing stuff out there." So it sounds great to me. To get a guy on a $1.1 million a year contract is just amazing. Like, I mean, this guy does anything, even almost like what he did last year, that's a good deal. And again, it's risk-free. I'm sure it's okay. This one, I mean, almost kind of flew under the radar. Like, it would have been easy to miss this one, but no, I don't know. I mean, my guess is that Heineman, in all fairness, him and his agent probably didn't have a ton of legs to stand on or leverage in a situation like this. You just got traded to a new team. They don't know you. You don't know them, and I think it's just about kind of getting a contract on the books. And I'm sure he's totally happy making that 1.1 million. But from our perspective, I mean, this is just a great deal. I mean, maybe if it works out, even better. And if it doesn't work out, well, it's only 1 million. It's not a big deal.
Yeah, I think so. And this one feels more like a layup than anything, right? Like getting Heineman in the trade probably turns out it could turn out to be a shrewd addition. And from Darsh, and there was just no way that this was going to end up being a contract that was like, oh wow, that was too much. So I'm excited for the players. I think Holmstrom is him and Holmstrom could be like whether they play one or like stacked on top of each other in the lineup or play on the same line. I just love the thought of these two guys being in the kind of the greasy part of the Islanders lineup and adding skill to that greasy part, right? Like, I think that they're the type of players that come May and June, you look at a team that's doing well in the Stanley Cup final, and you're like, yeah, like every team needs an Emil Heineman, every team needs a Simon Holmstrom. And
where'd this E2 Luosterainen come from?
Right.
Like,
You know what's great is that E2 Luosterainen and Gustav Forsling, who have made quite a name for themselves. They both came from the Carolina Hurricanes. So one for free and one for Vinny Trocheck. So, but that was Tulsky. Tulsky only gets credit for the moves that paid off when he was the assistant GM. He was obviously adamantly against waiving Gus Forsling. Right. My point is that. I think that these players are, we're saying no risk. There's of course risk, but where's the risk with Emil Heineman and Simon Holmstrom in the correct spot of your lineup, right? We're not asking either one of them to shoulder a huge load here, and these deals reflect that. Very, very pleased with both of them. I'm excited. I feel like Heineman could really be a turn himself into a fan favorite like Holmstrom has.
Yeah, I can see that being possible. I guess my only fear with this, to get back to what you were saying, was I was a little afraid that since they asked for, like, got him specifically in the trade, that they were going to be like, this guy's going to be a superstar, and they give him like, $3.5 million or something like that, which, again, wouldn't have been that terrible, but I would have been like, huh? But this is much more reasonable. And again, like you said, if he turns out to be another Simon Holmstrom 2.0, hey, even better.
Right.
I like it. And yeah, I like the idea of them playing together, but they both shoot left, so I don't know if that's going to work.
Yeah, the Islanders have a lot of left shooting forward.
Yes, they do. Very strange. Okay, so that was the sort of, we had the re-signing guys. We have the other RFA who was signed, so in a sense re-signing. Now we have the brand new newcomers. In the interest of getting him out of the way real quick, we did touch on it a few minutes ago. One of the guys they signed on July 1st was goalie David Rittich, otherwise known as Big Save Dave. I don't know if he made too many big saves last year with the Kings. He only had an .887 save percentage, 2.84 goals against. He went 16-14-2, which is a very Islanders-like record for a team that, had much better defense than the Islanders did. Rittich has bounced around a ton. I did not know he was Czech. I swear to God, I didn't know this. And that, I mean, that's fine, but I didn't know. I was like, oh, really? But his presence here, and I don't mean this in any, it was for 1 year, $1 million. Again, totally risk-free for just about everybody involved. But, and this is no shade to Rittich at all, who's, again, he's bounced around. He's had a totally fine career as an NHL backup. The thing is, his signing and his presence here really brings to the question, what the hell is going on with Semyon Varlamov? Because to hear Varley talk about it whenever he's been interviewed, it's like, oh, he's coming back. I'm coming back. I'll be ready for camp. But don't worry about me. But when the team signs in free agency an NHL backup, it seems to signal that maybe their backup might not be ready. So I don't know what anybody knows. Maybe they had an understanding with Rittich that he could be in the AHL at some point, I suppose. I'm sure they gave him all the information that they had on Varley and his health as well. Again, I'm totally fine with it. Marcus Hogberg did the best he could last year. Maybe he's better off in Bridgeport for a full season. And then Rittich can just back up Sorokin. I don't want to do another 3-goalie JF Berube situation here, although none of these guys are all that young anymore. But the thing I kept thinking about was, it's got nothing to do with Rittich, who again is totally fine. It's got more to do with Varlamov and what's going on with him. Because if he's not ready, then yeah, okay, Rittich steps in. But if he is, then what does that mean for David Rittich? Like, I don't even know. So I don't know. What'd you make of the Rittich signing? Was it surprising to you that they would even sign a goalie, or did that make sense? Considering again that we literally have no idea where Varley is at this point. We just don't know.
Yeah, he's in what, Lubbock, Texas, wherever his ranch is. Yeah, out there in Texas, and no phone.
Yeah, right.
Just him and the horses and his goalie coach, who he flies out for every offseason. So what a life for Varley. Yeah, I mean, well, first of all, this was the first signing that was announced for the Islanders.
Right.
And I thought, oh yeah, it's gonna. We were talking about how the Islanders had under Lou, especially the latter half of his tenure, the Islanders were just like not really active participants in the off season, and I was like, oh, that's makes perfect sense. They'll sign David Rittich, and then we'll hear from the Islanders in a couple months, because that's been their MO in July and August lately. But and I also like that the Islanders, I know Kevin Weeks like kind of caught wind of it early, but the Islanders were like the only team in the NHL that still announces their own signings for the most part. Some got beat. They got beat on a few, but they also they were able to announce a few on their own, which was great. I think they almost beat they were like kind of neck and neck. It was a photo finish for who broke the Shabanov signing.
Yeah.
But, anyway, so Rittich, as you said, he was the tone, or as I was saying, he was the tone setter for the day, and completely got my guard down for what was to come, because it got more and more exciting as the day went on, and the day turned into the next few days for the Islanders. But yeah, my mind went to Varley right away, and then I started to kind of walk back myself, because this is something every team in the NHL does these days. Like there's only 64 goaltending spots in the NHL for the most part, right? And there's more goalies than that, and you'll always see guys like Rittich, the Rittichs of the world, Eric Comrie's done it, James Reimer now. I don't know if Ilya Samsonov signed anywhere yet, but like
Samsonov is still out there. Yeah.
Yeah. Like he's like on this path to doing it. Yeah. Like just guys who they sign, they'll either be a backup, the last backup signed, or they'll join a team as a third goalie. Matt Murray did it and is now with the Kraken. And it's just, you get to this point of the career in this modern NHL where there are just too many veteran goaltenders and not enough spots, and teams want to give like young goalies a shot. And so I think Rittich was always going to sign as a third goalie. And the Islanders were probably the team that the path was the most open for him to sit on the bench with a hat. Yeah. And I think that he makes sense here, because he's, as you said, like he's totally fine as a backup. Yeah, he's had some bad years, he's had some good years, and that's an NHL goalie. Like that's an NHL backup. That's what they do. You just hope that when you roll the dice, you get them on one of their good years, and not when he's putting up the 886 with Nashville in 21-22, right? So, I hope that Varley's back, and because he's a better goalie between the two of them. And I don't think that this means that he's not. I think a lot of people are jumping to that conclusion. But this is just something that NHL teams do, and the Islanders needed one because we saw that the Marcus Hogberg experience was probably not one that you could go back to as the number 3. It looked like it could have been, but he's probably best suited to be in the minors in Bridgeport, and Rittich, either Varley will go on LTIR or Rittich gets waived and probably scooped up by somebody in after training camp and becomes a very weird Islander. But there's once again the biggest risk of this deal is that he plays. Right? Like that's it. Like you just hope you're bringing this guy in to be the number 3, and you're praying that Varley's okay. And the biggest risk here is that you're counting on David Rittich to play 30 something games this season.
Yeah. Oh God.
So yeah, in a way, it's like the biggest risk of this deal is that it works out.
Yeah, I guess that's true. That is true. But yeah, no, I mean, you just hit it right there. They had to do it. I guess I glossed over that point when I was going on, but they had to do it because the Hogberg thing wasn't going to fly.
Yeah,
so,
I mean,
And
Penny, for his thoughts, he's probably like, all right.
Oh, Hogberg.
Yeah, the Hog. But they don't have any. Who else is in the system? They got Tristan Lennox, and because Scarrick's gone.
Right. Actually, Lennox played in the scrimmage, and I was like, oh my God, hopefully he's all right. But actually, now that I'm looking at TSN's sort of list here, I mean, honestly, Rittich is probably the best they were going to get. I mean, Anton Forsberg was out there. Dan Vladar signed with Philly. Jake Allen signed a crazy 5-year deal to stay in Jersey. Matt Murray, like you said, was out there. Ovanacek. So, I mean, none of these guys are like, lights out.
We'd be having the same conversation for any of them.
Yeah, basically.
It would just be like, just take the name out, put it in, hope Varley's okay.
But Rittich is the only one of them, I think, that had like a couple of good years. Like you said,
he was an all-star.
Calgary. He was good, yeah.
He was an NHL all-star. And he became like a fan favorite. I think he has he's like a very well-known or has a very good reputation for like doing community work and philanthropy stuff.
Oh, that's great.
Because I remember watching Sportsnet. They did like a feature, and of course he was traded to the Maple Leafs at one point to be like their third goalie, and so we got inundated with how David Rittich is going to save the Leafs as their number 2 goalie for the Marlies.
All I know is he's got a great nickname, so we'll always have Big Save Dave, no matter what. So that was number 1. But then the Islanders again knocked one, if not out of the park, certainly it was a nice long double or maybe a triple. And for the added bonus, signed a guy that we actually talked about them possibly having some interest in on our last episode. We have absolutely no idea. We just throw darts at the walls, looking at names and being like, yeah, that guy kind of makes sense. I can kind of see the Islanders signing him. That would be forward Jonathan Drouin, who signed a 2-year, $4.4 million AAV contract. In 43 games with the Avalanche last season, he had 11 goals, 26 assists. Actually, the year before, that was actually a down year for him. The year before was really a comeback year for him. 19 goals, 37 assists, 56 points, all career highs in 79 games with the 23-24 Avalanche. Really kind of reestablished himself as a really, really, really good player. This guy was a 3rd overall pick at one point, was traded to Montreal for Mikhail Sergachev. He got played with Tampa Bay, had some kind of wonky years with them, got rocked by Thomas Hickey in a playoff game one time, you may remember, got traded to Montreal. Tons of pressure on a French-Canadian player playing for the Canadiens. Didn't really work out there, bounced around, ends up with the Avalanche and resurrects himself. And now he's with the Islanders. And again, $4 million is not chump change, but it's also 2 years. Again, very risk-free. And the best thing about Drouin coming in here is that this guy, unlike most of the guys the Islanders have, actually has experience on a successful power play, which obviously the Avalanche had. Now, the Islanders don't have Cale Makar, and they don't have Nathan McKinnon, and they don't have Mikko Rantanen, who he played with, but they do have his power play coach, Ray Bennett. And I think between Bennett, Drouin and maybe the other players, maybe the Islanders can put together some power play that's better than 31st in the league. If they get to 21st, then consider that a success. But this to me was great. A lot of the reaction to it is great too. People are kind of happy to see him come here. A lot of people saying that's a great deal, no risk deal, good for him coming in here. And I was just excited that somebody we talked about them actually getting, they actually got. So I got to use the Annie Potts and Ghostbusters gift. We got one like that, but this to me seems like another really, really solid hit for Matthew Darche. I love the fit. We'll find a place for him. What line is he going to be on? Who cares? He'll be somewhere. And I think that he gives the Islanders an extra offensive dimension that they didn't really have. It's a lot like the Duclair signing last year. I don't want to overstate Drouin's impact, but again, you put some guys together that can score some goals, and I don't know, maybe they'll start scoring goals. I don't know. It's a crazy idea. You're not going to sign Nick Ehlers or guys like Mitch Marner, but Jonathan Drouin, I think, has still got plenty left in the tank, right?
Yeah, and I think what the most important thing here is that he plays, 60 plus games, because he's obviously had trouble doing that in his career. And if he does that, he should be a pretty impactful player on this roster. And I think what I like about it is, as you said, the Islanders were not going to get, Nick Ehlers. They're not going to get Mitch Marner. So what you need to do in that case is kind of go by a committee approach, which is, Jonathan Drouin, Kyle Palmieri, Anthony Duclair, Simon Holmstrom, Emil Heineman, Pierre Engvall, Max Shabanov, and Max Siplikov. When you look at them one individually, you're like, none of them's going to bowl you over.
Right.
But as a group, you're like, okay, I could see, if one of these guys should pop here. Like the chances are that one of these guys has a big year. And when you get more guys with that kind of upside into the gaggle, the greater your chances are of one of them, paying off. And Drouin is obviously one of the most talented players on the roster right away. Not a huge risk deal, and I think he's like I alluded. This is the second time this player's name is going to come up on this podcast episode, but P.A. Parento. Yeah. Obviously, completely different situation, right? With Drouin being the number 3 overall pick, and Parento becoming, just as like a waiver claim, basically. But what I like about it is like they're a type of player the Islanders just haven't had in quite a bit, and a silky French Canadian player who can run a power play, who can run a half court, slow it down offense. Obviously, they've got Barzal, but he's his own kind of thing. Like, I don't think there's a player in the league like Matt Barzal, and you kind of have to adapt to him. Whereas Drouin, I think, is much more of like a good third wheel on a good line, and a guy who can just slow the game down, much the way Parento did. And obviously Jonathan Drouin is P.A. Parento on steroids. But I just like having this kind of player because I think it's been a while. In a way, he kind of feels a little bit Jordan Eberle-ish too.
Yeah. Oh yeah, for sure.
Like he's like that. If Jonathan Drouin is healthy and the Islanders have like the right role for him, it's almost really hard for them not to work out. But those other two factors are unknown. So that's it's going to have nothing to do with like him as the player. It's going to have to do with like the stuff out of everyone's control. So this deal could be a complete pancake if he doesn't play much. Like if he gets hurt early, like we saw with Duclair, like this could be a situation where we're like, another Duclair. Like that wasn't fun.
I forget what Wass said in his availability, but the gist of it was definitely like, well, we had a lot of injuries last year. Like he was basically being like, everybody was hurt last year. Like everybody got hurt. Right. So that was obviously a huge problem. But yeah, obviously it goes without saying that if Drouin gets hurt, this would be a problem. But otherwise, I mean, to me, the other thing too about the Drouin signing is, it almost feels like it happened a year and a half ago, but Darche's first move as GM was to do what? Re-sign Kyle Palmieri to a 2-year, $4.75 million contract that made people go apoplectic. Like people were like, what the hell are you doing? That's crazy. Why would you do that? Palmieri had more points than Drouin did last year.
Right.
Obviously Drouin was hurt for half the season or so, but like this deal, much like the Romanov deal got recontextualized by other signings on July 1st, the Drouin deal kind of recontextualized the Palmieri deal for me. And I thought to myself, you know what? I don't think that signing's that bad. Like, obviously Palmieri's an older player, but I'm like, you know what? I think we all kind of overreacted to that, the Palmieri signing. Like, it's really not that bad. Yeah, he's got some trade protection, obviously, that I think Drouin doesn't have. But still, at the same time, like, oh no, Drouin has a modified no trade 16 team, and Palmieri's is no trade, full no trade first year, and then a modified in the second year. So a little bit more trade protection. But I thought, you know what? Both of these deals are, I think, totally fine. There's really not a ton to be mad about here.
Yeah, and honestly, I think that the two of them feel like a kind of perfect fit for to be
One
a
line?
top, to be on either side of I mean, honestly, any of the centers.
Sure.
Because I think that they kind of each bring something very different to the table, and if you want to pair them with Horvat or Barzal or even Pajot, like I think that it works out. So and another thing it does is this was everyone's kind of on notice, I guess, like, which is funny. Like, Jonathan Drouin shows up, that should put someone like Duclair and Engvall and I mean, hell, even like Siplikov, Heineman, who's brand new. Like, everyone's like, shit, I'm gonna have to earn a spot in not only in the top 6 or the middle, the top 9 or whatever, but also in the lineup every night. Which, I mean, the Islanders, to get into the Islanders lineup in down the stretch last year in some of their most important games, you had to beat out Kyle McLean and Casey Zizekas and Mark Gatcomb, right? Like, and there was a night where Anthony Duclair couldn't even do that, and there were nights that Pierre Engvall couldn't do that, and so now you're going to have to beat out a lot more. Right. Which is, and what we keep saying it, right? The Islanders were never going to sign Mitch Marner as much as we wanted, and they were never going to sign Nick Ehlers. So I just feel like they did a really good job in that next tier. By not giving Andrew Ladd the massive deal, but also bringing in these kind of just very competent, good players with some upside. So I like it. I French Canadian Mafia continues to grow alongside the Swedish Mafia and the Russian Mafia. So and I think Matt Barzal speaks French, right? Yeah, we found out he speaks French.
In fact, you're saying, I didn't even think about this, but saying Palmieri and Drouin might look good together in the same line. Dude, throw those guys on either side of Matt Barzal and just let them go. Like, just honestly, like, just let them go. I mean, I don't see why you wouldn't do that. But that makes sense to me. I'm all for the French Canadian Mafia growing and growing. Okay, so that brings us to our final Islanders newcomer, and we've been dropping his name all throughout this rather lengthy first half here, and that is the latest Russian import, Maxim Shabanov. I'm going with Shabanov. Maybe it's Shabanov. I don't know. I like Shabanov. There was quite a bidding war for this guy, much like there was for Max Siplikov kind of last year. Much like there was for Kevin Churchman many years ago, if you remember. Shabanov signed a 1-year, $975,000 contract with the Islanders. Again, he's an RFA, much like Siplikov is. Hasn't signed yet. Last year in the KHL, 65 games, 23 goals, 44 assists, 67 points for Tractor, who went all the way to the Gagarin Cup final where they lost. He was an MVP finalist for the entire league. He's just 24 years old. He scored a Michigan in a Russian game. I don't know what a Michigan is in Russia. Maybe a Magnitogorsk. I don't know. I think I made that joke already before. And by all accounts, again, he was a sought after guy. The Flyers thought that they had him. Actually, I saw a lot of Flyers fans be mad about it. The Rangers thought they might have had it in on him. They were all kind of mad. I think Utah may have talked to him as well. And he signed with the Islanders, who I'm sure offered him a place to play. There's an article, I'll put a link to this from his, it talks from his agent. He was looking for power play time. He was looking for playing time. I'm sure I think he mentioned that, the Islanders having other Russian players there was a factor as well. And so the Islanders won the bidding for this guy, and it made other people mad, which is great. So all this sounds good, right? What's the catch? I'll tell you what the catch is. This brother is 5'8" and is anywhere between 156 and 160 pounds. That is small. If he stands next to Matthew Schaefer, who is like 7 years younger than he is, it's going to look like Schaefer's little brother. Like he's a small dude. But, and Watt talked about this again in his availability, he plays like a guy who weighs and is tall, more and is taller than he actually is. He's not afraid to go into the crease. He's not afraid to mix it up and get in there and, sell his body out to make a play and score a goal. So hopefully he can take the rigors of the NHL, and the size is not a problem. If this does work out and this guy scores a lot of goals as a 5'8", 157 whatever pound guy, this might be my favorite player on the team. Like, I'm just telling you right now. I can see myself really falling in love with a guy who's like this. And so to that, I say, Shabanov, Shabbat Shalom. Welcome. Well, it was good to have you aboard. Hello. And let's do this. I just love that the Flyers fans were so mad.
And the
Rangers
were so
mad. Yeah. So hopefully it works out, but even if it doesn't, I think it was great that they got him just to make other people mad. It's that's the way I think.
Yeah. And this was a surprise because when they signed Drouin, the Islanders were linked to Shabanov because of Jim Pilafito and the connection with his ability to bring Russian players over.
Yeah. And we should recognize Lou, I'm sure, did a lot of work on this before he was let go as well.
Right. Yes. So it was a bit of surprise because I thought the Islanders were out, and at that point I was just like, I just hope the Rangers don't get him. Whatever. If he goes to the Flyers, so be it.
Right.
Just not the Rangers, please. And so right away it's a win because they beat these teams out. It was fun to watch the fallout from that. It was funny to think like how the Islanders just like, if they feel, as we said earlier, like they feel like they've got 37 players. Everybody wants to be an Islander. All of a sudden, as long as you're not too good, you can be an Islander. And yeah, I mean, this is a guy with an incredible mixtape. Like I was talking about not having a player like Jonathan Drouin in a while. I don't know if the Islanders have ever had a player like this. This is something entirely different.
Like a super talented little guy?
Yeah.
Not really. I mean, they've had little guys. Richard Park wasn't a big guy. Or guys like that. I guess Blake was probably the closest one, but
yeah, he's like this. I'm watching this guy like toe pick the puck with his stick. Like, he's like flinging it around. He's making that Oliver Wahlstrom goal that he scored in that was like on the news in Boston, that viral spinorama goal when he was like 8 or whatever. He's like doing that in the middle of KHL games and stuff. This is some serious chicanery from Shabanov. And I love the tractor jerseys are really cool.
Yeah, really, really cool, right?
Yeah. I love that he looks like he's wearing a short sleeve, like a cut off, almost like tank top, the way he wears his jersey, because he's got it tucked up under this like elbow pads. And that picture that the Islanders Twitter account posted of him like given the "Are you not entertained" kind of look after celebrating his goal is just it's a beautiful kind of graphic. Not because the design is beautiful, but just the Islanders color and the tractor uniform, they do not go well together at all. And then you got this guy with like long hair skating around, giving the look to the crowd. So yeah, I mean, this should make you excited once again. And yes, you can always take these kind of these signings with a grain of salt. He's small. As you said, he finished 3rd in the KHL in scoring last year. If you look at the company around him, it kind of tells you the kind of player you need to be. The player who led the KHL in scoring with 80 points and 49 goals in 62 games last year was Josh Levo.
Leafs legend, Josh Levo.
Number 2 was the guy that we were all real mad when the Islanders didn't sign Nikita Gusev. Wow. He finished 2 points ahead of Shabanov. And then right behind him was, and I wonder if you will remember this name, Sheldon Rempel.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Kings, former King.
Nice. Yeah. He scored against the Islanders in Patrick Waugh's second game. I think they played really well, and like Sheldon Rempel scored his first NHL goal.
That's right.
And that was it for him in the NHL. Well, he scored 61 points in the KHL last year. I mean, The top 10 is littered with names, right? We've got Vitaly Kravtsov, Alexander Barabanov, and another Shabanov kind of type player that everyone wanted was that Vadim Shipachyov.
Oh yeah, Shipachyov, yeah.
Yeah, that the I think the Knights had him.
Yes.
And everyone's like, oh yeah, next big KHL import. So these things are, they're 50-50. He could end up having they're very different players, but he could end up, being a, Max Siplikov, just like a very competent NHL player.
Right.
Or he could pop, or he could be back with Tractor and, by Thanksgiving. We just don't know with these kind of guys. And, but this one feels different, right? It feels even more than Siplikov, because when the Islanders signed Siplikov, it was like, he scored a lot of goals, but he had a high shooting percentage. There are questions about his skating, if it can translate in the NHL. And then he was really good. I mean, I think he did a really good job, and he doesn't have a contract yet, so we'll see where that comes in. But I think, the Islanders kind of got what all they could have hoped for realistically out of Siplikov. I mean, sure, we would have liked to see him actually score more, but I just think his overall game was really good. He drove play well. He was really good in tight, making short passes and breaking pucks out of the zone. He should hopefully get more power play time, although the team got better, so who knows if he does. But so I think that if you look at those two guys next to each other, and it's hard not to, given they both were signed from the KHL after big years. They both have the same first name. But if you look at them, you're like, well, if Siplikov worked out like that, and Shabanov's coming with a much kind of higher pedigree, it's hard not to see this working out. And if it doesn't, whatever. Like, it's just a free player, and it made a lot of other teams that we like to see get mad. And I feel like this is the guy that probably made the players who've been around on the Islanders a while most excited, because like they know what Jonathan Drouin is going to bring. Right. They know what Ethan Bear is going to bring.
Right.
Like, but Max Shabanov, nobody knows. And I feel like they're going to be like, I can't wait to like get to camp to watch this guy and watch him helicopter Big Save Dave at Northwell.
Well, actually, you know what? The worst case scenario for him would be another guy we talked about on Weird Islanders this year, Jan Kovac,
right?
Who signed and then was like, he didn't make it out of camp. And then they were like, well, we're going to send you to Bridgeport. And he'd be like, yeah, I don't want to go to Bridgeport. And then they just cut him, So that would be the absolute worst case scenario. But, I think, I'm excited to see what happens. The Siplikov thing is interesting because he started out terrific and then he kind of hit a wall. And I don't think that's unusual probably for guys who coming in from the KHL. So I'm not only am I interested in seeing how Siplikov year 2 works out, because again, I thought he had like 35 points or something like that. I thought he finished okay for a guy coming in, but Shabanov, I'm kind of hoping is a little bit better than that. But again, we don't know. We just don't know. The other thing I liked about Shabanov is people are mentioning Shabba Ranks. And if you don't know who Shabba Ranks is, congratulations on being very young. He was a big reggae star in the the 90s. So I'm hoping to get some Shabba Ranks memes going if Shabanov is a hit.
He reminds me of his hair mostly, and like kind of his face is another Weird Islander. He looks like a younger, clean-shaven version of Richard Zednik when he's playing. Like that's what he reminds me of. So
I thought that too. Yeah. Like, why do I know this guy's face? And it's like, oh wait, Zednik. That's right. He's got the same kind of like shaggy hair, like blonde hair, basically. So but like you said, Zednik, I mean, what's that?
I mean, if he turns it to Richard Zednik, that'd be great.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. I mean, Zednik had a great long career and fought through a bunch of psychotic injuries too. But no, that would be great. And I'm all for this. Like, this is the kind of like, again, risk free. It's risk free. You got a guy. It only cost him money to get over here. They've got a lot of other Russian dudes here to make him feel more comfortable. And if it works out, this is found money. And you could sign him again next year. And again, if he ends up having a sick year and, you have to pay him a lot next year, well, okay, good. Then you got to move some guys out that aren't as good. And hope for the best. So I'm excited for him. I guess we should just wrap this up real quick by saying, again, Siplikov is in need of a contract. The Islanders, after all that, according to Puckpedia, the Islanders have $3.9 million in projected cap space left. Siplikov is in need of a new contract. Hudson Fasching is gone. We talked about that. Who was the other guy that needs a contract? Gakholm. Sorry.
Yes, Gakholm.
Yeah. Gakholm should not cost that much money. Sipakov is an interesting one. I don't know what he's going to make next year, but I don't think it'll be $3.9 million. So they should come in a little bit lower. We'll have to talk about trade some other time, honestly, because somebody might have to get traded because there's just too many guys for too many spots, but that's a problem probably for after training camp or something. So again, just to wrap this up, I'm going to get back to what I said off the top. It feels like a corner is being turned, and there's a lot of new faces here that can help the Islanders in either now or in the future. We'll talk about the future again when we talk about the scrimmage in the second half. But it's nice to see a bunch of new faces come in for the first time in what feels like a long time. And even the guys that they re-signed, Holmstrom brings that intrigue. Like, what's he going to be in years 4, 5, 6? What's it going to be at the end of this 2-year contract? DeAngelo, we kind of know now. Hopefully he can, again, produce in a full season the way he produced in last season. And Romanov, what's he going to be? Like, is he going to stay the way he is, or is he going to evolve into maybe a more effective player than just, being there's nothing wrong with being a perfectly fine second pairing defenseman, but is he going to evolve into something else based on his contract? So yeah, all told, I mean, how do you feel about all these new guys coming in? And what do you maybe is there one player that we talked about that you're most excited for?
Yeah, I guess it's Shabanov. But yeah, I think what people keep saying, like, there's a vision, right? You're saying the Islanders turned a corner. I think that's probably the right way to put it, right? I don't think that the Islanders have an identity yet. I think that they're just trying to do what you're supposed to do in sports, which is go into the next season and give yourself the best chance to win. We don't need to label it anything, right? It doesn't need to be not every offseason has to have like a theme that retool on the fly, a soft retool, a soft rebuild, under the radar rebuild, whatever you want to say. I don't think you need to slap a label on anything. What the Islanders are doing is they're trying to win the Stanley Cup next year, really the only way that they realistically can, which is by bringing these kind of players in to a roster that already has some players and decent players and good goalie, and hope that it all just works out and they get really lucky. And that's really all they can hope for right now. And I think in a couple seasons down the line that changes a bit, but until that, that kind of crop of players emerges, this is how they have to do it. And that's fine. And it's fun. And I think bang for our buck, we have a pretty like entertaining looking team to think about here. And it's as much as I wanted the Islanders season to end 2 months ago or 3 months ago, I'm kind of upset like the Islanders aren't playing the Flyers tomorrow and I can watch these guys play. And because it does feel like there's like it feels like a new school year, if you like it does feel that way. You see some familiar faces, then you got some new faces in, and you got no idea what kind of person you're going to be at the end of it. And yeah, these are just going to be the guys that we're going to be in the foxhole with come October, and it seems like a decent group. And yeah, I mean, I am surprised. I would say there's 3 more like good players on this roster than I thought there would be before free agency opened. I thought the Islanders were going to sign, as we said, like a Jonathan Drouin, Dave Rittich, and that would be that. And instead they've got, a couple more, like with, Heineman and Shabanov. And I mean, we'll talk about Ethan Bear in the next section. Like Ethan Bear, I think is a really intriguing option. So, yeah, I think this is I am surprised that I am surprised. I'm surprised that the Islanders surprised me.
Yeah, no, that's good. It's good. It's been a long time. Surprised you in a good way too. Not surprised.
Yes, exactly. Yes.
Man, I can't believe these guys are all hurt. What's happening right now? We don't like that. Okay, we talked a lot about these guys. Okay, we're gonna take a break. We're gonna come back and talk about the AHL guys led by Ethan Bear and a few other names. We're gonna talk about their assistant coaches, and then we're gonna go around the NHL for a little bit. Talk about what was on one hand a very boring but also very interesting trade free agency frenzy. Okay, so meet us on the other side, and don't skip the first part because we're going to talk about something that's coming up next week at the Patreon. Okay, so meet us on the other side. Thanks. And now a word from our sponsors. First is always VintageIceHockey.com, where you can get t-shirts, hoodies, jerseys, and more featuring over 100 classic hockey logos. Vintage Ice Hockey now carries a full line of Islanders Anxiety merch featuring our blue and orange brain logo, as well as our Al Arbor and the Island shirts. And as always, our portion of the sales go directly to the Center for Dementia Research. That is VintageIceHockey.com. Try wines from the Pinot Project. They offer a Rosé, a Pinot Grigio, and a Pinot Noir that was named a Top 100 Best Buy by Wine Enthusiast magazine. All are delicious, priced at less than $15 a bottle, and available at local wine shops and at UBS Arena. Learn more at thepinotproject.com. Please drink responsibly. So like we said, this is our season finale for the main free feed as well as the Uncle tier feed. If you want to hear more all summer long, go to patreon.com/IslandersAnxiety, sign up for the Country Club tier. Now, we are going to talk about the free agent stuff coming up, but one situation we won't be talking about will be the circus in Toronto and how Mitch Marner ended up being a Vegas Golden Knight. Maybe we'll bring it up a little bit, but you know that we want to give that the full Master Leaf Theater treatment, but we had so many things to talk about. It just didn't make any sense. We'd be up till like 2:00 in the morning. So next week on Wednesday, exclusively for Country Club tier patrons, will be a Master Leaf Theater standalone special called Mitch to Do About Nothing. It's going to be all about Mitch Marner and the reaction to the end of his tenure with the Maple Leafs. So if you want to hear a very special and what will definitely be a rocking Master Leaf Theater standalone episode, sign up at Patreon for the Country Club tier, patreon.com/IslandersAnxiety. I'm already excited. I'm going to send you the links I got already. It's actually not quite as crazy as you would think, but there's some crazy stuff that we got.
I think it's we'll save it for there, but it was like simmering for so long.
Yes.
That there was just, everyone had already got it out of their system at one point, but then there were a few people who got it out of their system again. And I can't wait to dive into the whole saga, because it was just, if you get there's nothing like a little extortion.
Little tampering, little blackmail, all that good stuff. A lot of stuff. So again, that's going to be a Patreon exclusive. It's going to come out on Wednesday. We're going to record it on Tuesday. So join us over there next week. Okay. Before we get into that league-wide free agency stuff, let's talk about some AHL signings the Islanders made also on July 1st. Just to run down real quick, defenseman Ethan Bear, 1 year, $775K, had 10 goals, 36 assists, 46 points in 62 games with Hershey last year. He was in the Caps system, but he didn't play with the Caps last year. He only played in Hershey. But to be honest, if you're going to play with one AHL team all season long, Hershey is about the best you can do because they are essentially the gold standard. Now, that being said, they did not win the Calder Cup last year. That would have been the Abbotsford Canucks. And the Islanders also signed defenseman Cole McWard, who played 67 games for those Abbotsford Canucks, 6 goals, 20 assists, a real veteran guy, apparently a bit of a leader on that Abbotsford team. They also signed forward Matthew Highmore, who spent last year between the Belleville Senators and the actual Ottawa Senators, had 23 games, 2 goals, 8 assists, 10 points for Belleville, but in 41 games with the Senators, had 2 goals, 4 assists, and 6 points. You may have heard his name. He was with the Blackhawks for a long time. He apparently was with the Blues for a little while too, but Matthew Highmore has been around. He's definitely an AHL veteran. And also getting one. So those guys all got 2-way contracts. So if they get called up to the NHL, they get paid more, but they're most likely going to be AHL depth pieces. Getting 1-way 1-year contracts to play in the AHL. Chris Terry, of course, coming back, the all-time leading scorer in Bridgeport Islanders history. Max Dorrington, Cameron Berg, Mr. Berg, Ross Mitten, who is from Copeg Harbor, which is pretty cool. He was at the scrimmage. We'll talk about it in a few minutes. Hunter Drew, and those guys are all forwards, and then defenseman Luke Rowe as well. We're going to be blunt. we don't know any of these guys. I've heard some of these names. Again, Highmore I've seen play for the Blackhawks. Bear, we know he was with the Oilers for a while, is a First Nations. He's a Cree. And he had a really interesting story. And the biggest thing about Ethan Bear, and the reason we know him as well from our end, is because he is like great friends with Matt Barzal. In fact, he was the best man. Barzal was the best man at Ethan Bear's wedding. And they played together in Seattle and have a long, long history. So I'm sure that Barzal had some input there as well. We don't know any of these guys that well. Bear is really about it. Chris Terry, obviously, we know pretty well. But like, I'd never heard of Cole McWard before the Islanders signed him, even though he was, on Calder Cup winning team. Any of these guys jump out at you as well? Or is it just Bear really is kind of the marquee name in this group? I will say, it's nice to see some like veteran guys who had success sign with Bridgeport, because God knows they can use the help down there. And so I don't think there's anything wrong with signing a ton of dudes just to play for Bridgeport, because holy shit, that team needs all hands on deck. They need all the help they can get. But anyway, did any of these guys, kind of be like, oh, how about that?
I really liked the Ethan Bear signing. I think that he's the right kind of guy for that spot, which is, assuming that the Islanders kind of have their top six with Romanov, Pollock, Pelech, Mayfield, one of DeAngelo, Boquist, Schaefer. It's, then you've got Isaiah George and Ethan Bear kind of fighting for that number 8 spot behind whoever loses the Boquist DeAngelo face-off. I know they are different handedness, George and Bear, but you get the point, right? And I think this is the exact kind of defenseman you want for that role. A guy who, if he plays 12 games for you next season, it means that the blue line was pretty healthy and competent, and it worked. And maybe we got bounce back seasons from Pollock and a healthy season for Pelech, and that's great. But if it doesn't, and the Islanders blue line has basically since 2018-19 not had a healthy season. He's the kind of guy that's just, he's not Sam Bolduc and he's not Dennis Cholowski. He feels like a guy who can come in and stabilize a third pairing rather than be like, oh, well, we can only play one of you guys. Let me bring the D into the meeting room. Just a reminder, that guy right there, that's Sam Bolduc, or that's Dennis Cholowski. We can only play him like 4 minutes tonight. So the rest of you guys are going to have to, like, Ethan Bear can come in and do a job. And heck, I think he can do even more of a job than that. And I think we're going to talk a lot about this when we discuss the scrimmage, but the Islander fan base is incredibly good about getting their arms around players like Ethan Bear. Who's dealt with depression and anxiety.
Yes,
checked himself into the program at one point due to those mental health issues. I think that he will really appreciate being an Islander. Obviously, he's got Matt Barzal, who you talked about them being good friends. It seems like the Islanders friendship was a theme because Anthony Duclair and Jonathan Drouin are really good friends,
right?
Too, and I'm sure that Max Shabanov is friends with all the Russians. And they drafted a Victor Eklund is like best friends with
right.
Cal Odelius, is that right?
And Schaefer and Luca Romano.
Are good friends. Eiserman and Camille Badnarik were really good friends from the last draft. So
Isaiah George and somebody played junior together or lacrosse together, something like that. They grew up in the same town. I can't remember now who, but
he played lacrosse with somebody.
Right.
Cal Ritchie, I think.
Okay.
We haven't even talked about, like, I don't think this is the first time his name has really like come up, but so friendship, man. That's the Islanders. There, it's like this new batch of uncles are developing before our eyes. But I think this is a really, dare I say, tidy piece of business. When it comes to your number 8 defenseman, right? Like, I think you can. It feels good to go into the season, and maybe, and he could be the number 1 defenseman in Bridgeport, which is good too, because they have, they've got Odelius, they've got Pulkkinen, and guys who can learn from someone who's been in the NHL for much more than a cup of coffee. So, I like this one a lot. I remember Highmore's name. I've never heard of Cole McWard. But Bear to me was one I really liked. So I'm very happy to have him.
Yeah, no, me too, for sure. I like that idea. And, and he's had NHL experience as well. So, he could come up, and if he lights it up down there or something, he could always come up. We should also mention the Bridgeport Islanders also have 2 new assistant coaches. We've heard from Rocky Thompson. He also spoke today after the 4th day of prospect camp. So if you want to go listen to what he has to say, he also talked about knowing some of these guys from other places too. Seems to have a lot more kind of energy as far as interviewers go. So that's good to know. I don't know if he's a good coach. Hopefully he is. But his staff has been filled out now with 2 assistants, David Cuniff and Chad Kolarik. Cuniff, you may remember, he was with the Worcester Railers for a while there. I think it's probably related to John Cuniff, who was with the Devils for a long time. And then Chad Kolarik was with the Rangers situation for a while. Yeah, he had some connections to the Rangers. So again, if we don't know these players, we sure as hell don't know the assistant coaches, but it's good that they're there, I guess. There was a report earlier this week about the Bridgeport Islanders moving potentially to Hamilton, Ontario, to play in a revamped I don't know what it's called now, but it used to be called Cops Coliseum. The Hamilton Bulldogs that used to play there moved. I believe they're the Laval Rocket now, is the Habs farm team. But Hamilton has been without AHL hockey. It wants AHL hockey again. And apparently that team that they have found to move there is the Bridgeport Islanders. I don't want to talk about that today because it is not official. And a lot of people can speak to this, more effectively and intricately than we can. So I'm going to park it for now, but that was a story. If you want to go look for it, please be my guest and come to your own conclusions, but we'll see if they announce it for reals. Our buddy Ryan, again, was a Bridgeport season ticket holder this year, so he can tell you probably more about it than we can. All I know is that if it does end up being true, I'm going to have to go to Bridgeport because I've been saying for years I need to take in a game, and I have not. And so I will. For my friend, one of my best friends went to college at the University of Hartford, and he was there for 4 years. And every time I talk to him, I'm like, dude, I'm coming up. We're going to go see a Whalers game. We're going to see a Whalers Islanders game. It'll be cheap as hell. We'll be the only people there. It's going to be great. And I'll give you a guess how many Whalers Islanders games I saw at the mall in Hartford. The answer is 0. So I'm not doing that again. I'm going to Bridgeport and watching a game if this is indeed last year. But it's like 25 years they've been there. So it's a very complex situation. Again, I don't want to get into it, but we'll see if something happens, it happens. You saw that story,
yes,
right?
Yeah. And I think you said, right? Like I don't really know what to think about it yet, honestly. Like you don't need to weigh in on everything right away. And right. I think that's one that I need to sit with.
Yeah.
For a little bit and especially because it's not official.
If that happens, we should really try to get Michael Fornabayo on the show because we've been wanting to talk to him for a long time.
Yeah.
Who covered Bridgeport forever. So that would be kind of cool. But yeah, no, you're right. We should sit with it. But maybe by the end of the season, by the end of the offseason, they'll actually announce something. Okay. Are we ready to go around the horn in the NHL and talk about some of the free agent signings?
Did we want to do that or the scrimmage first?
Oh yeah, the scrimmage. So the prospect camp was this week. I know, crazy, right? Like they haven't had one since 2019. And before we get in, I got to tell you, like I don't want to drag Lou's corpse out to just beat it some more. Like we've done this already. We were both fans of Lou, and like I can kind of get into some of the rules that he had, the facial hair and the numbers. Like I can kind of buy that from sort of like team building and aesthetic, point of view and stuff. It didn't really bother me that much. But having seen this prospect camp and seeing videos of the players coming in and talking, and like they had the scrimmage on YouTube on Wednesday, which was really, really cool. And like they got guys signing autographs and stuff. I don't understand why we didn't have this
right
for like 6 years. Like this to me is such a slam dunk. And if you watch that scrimmage, you saw pictures, and I'm sure you're going to go there with this. Northwell Health was packed to the gills. It was like 2,500 people in there. And it's like, it's July. And people want to see these dudes play. This was like, all the prospects basically were all there. And even the prospects were like, wow, this isn't even a real game. And this many people are out here, packing this place to go see it. And I just, I appreciated Lou's time here. And again, I can even get behind some of the wackadoodle rules that he might have had. But man, this has been missed.
Yeah.
And this is a great opportunity for these guys. And I hate that we haven't had this. And just to see their faces, to see the fans' faces, it's priceless. It really.
Right. And they did it right before they had like the prospect part of training camp a week before training camp, right?
Yes. Yeah, they've been doing that. Yeah.
But like it was under, it wasn't open to the public.
No, of course not.
And whatever. So I think it was a swing and a miss. Like as you said, like there's a lot that we love about Lou, and I will always think of him fondly. And honestly, I wouldn't have thought this was like a week ago. If you're like, oh yeah, prospect camp's coming up, do you think that not having it the past 7 years was a mistake? I'd be like, I think people are making a mountain out of a molehill here. Like, who cares, right? And I would have been dead wrong, because it was not only a great opportunity for fans to let the Islander out for a little bit. The players were blown away, and whether or not it would have been the same had the Islanders not cashed in, if they didn't draft Matthew Schaefer, they only got Victor Edlund and Kashawn Aitchison. Like, if those were the only two picks that they came home with from the draft, would it have been as buzzy? Maybe not, but I don't know if it would by much. Like, there still would have been a lot of people there, who want to do it, because this is a very passionate fan base. As we say all the time, like, to become a diehard Islander fan, to make them your number one team, you have to bypass the most famous American sports team in the world, the New York Yankees. Like, you got to bypass the Giants, the Jets, the Knicks. You have to go so far down the list. And if you're gonna do that, you're gonna be a psycho about the Islanders, and that's what it is. And that's kind of what these players were opened up to. And who cares about the game?
Yeah.
Do you remember anybody's development camp game? No. I don't remember anything. We joke around because last year during development camp, there was a writer who kept mentioning like Aiden Fulp winning bag skates, and we're like, can we just start the season already? I can't deal with it. But you don't remember anything from development camp at all. These players will. I mean, there's a lot of Long Island locals who were there, who got to play, who get to say, yeah, I got to play with Matt Schaefer at his first development camp, and that's awesome for them. But other than that, no one's going to remember anything on the ice. But what we will remember is that, like you said, the reaction from the players, the Daniel Prokhorov, chanting with "Let's go Islanders" with the fans. But the most important thing was we got to know Matt Schaefer more, and I mean, the more you find out about this guy, you're like, I'm starting to hate how perfect he is. Like, there's got to be one thing wrong with him. And he comes out and says the line that was, I mean, he's like, I could see myself here forever. I'm like, oh, you got to be kidding me. He's like, he said, people come here and they stay here. Basically, everything we've been saying about the uncles forever, he kind of said too, right? Like, love it here. I hear just so many good things. He corrected himself when he said "in the island" to back to "on the island."
He's talking about like, oh, they're saying you guys got, what is it, egg and cheese bagels out here? And somebody was like, bacon, egg and chease. Oh yeah, bacon, egg and cheese.
Yeah, I guess I gotta get one of those.
Yeah,
I mean, just couldn't have. The guy just knocked it out of the park. If you and I owned a PR firm and we just strictly talked to Islanders, and we're like, this is what you got to say to endear yourself to this insane, rabid, tight-knit fan base, I think we would have handed Matt Schaefer a lot of the lines that he gave on his own. And so, yeah, I'm blown away by the guy.
Yeah.
Because he's just becoming more and more, I mean, he just seems perfect. It's crazy. And there's a cliche, right, about players, about professional athletes. in the media, like, oh, he always says the right thing. He's saying the right thing there, Kip, after a game. And when you hear a pundit say that a player is saying the right thing, what he's saying is, oh, he's saying the party line. He's saying the perfect PR line to give in that situation. Oh, were you mad that the coach took you off of power play unit 1? I didn't have my best game today, whatever. Like, he said all the right things there. When I'm saying it about Matthew Schaefer, I actually mean like he's genuinely saying the right things here. Right. Like he's saying the things that are right, not the right thing to say to the media to not get yourself in trouble.
Yeah.
He's saying the right things to endear yourself to a fan base here. And I mean, who knows if he understands the the PTSD that we have from the previous number 1 overall pick, and he's almost like putting that at ease. I would give him a ton of credit either way if he does know that or if he doesn't know it and he's just genuinely saying it, or he's saying it.
I feel like he probably does.
Yeah.
Like,
I hope so. I give him credit either way though. But I mean, that was the thing from development camp I liked the most was just him. Can you ask Schaefer more things about Long Island?
Yeah.
Can you ask him? Did you guys tell him? I mean, he's 17. If he wants to go to one of the high schools, he could, by all means, just go and roll.
When he said, yeah, players come here and they don't know that much about it, but then they never leave. I was like,
about Evgeny Nabokov?
Yeah. Somebody told him that, but like, even if they did, for him to have the presence of mind to understand it,
right, to get
and
it,
to say it, is something else. Like, you know, I could tell him that all day, but it's like, I tell my daughter stuff all the time, but for her to like regurgitate it and say it and understand it is a whole other thing. I mean, but that being said, he interviews Kevin Connolly interviews him right after the draft. And he's like, yeah, I can't wait to beat the Rangers every time we play them. Like, he gets it. Like, you know, he knows what we want to hear, but I got to think that cause he has to, well, I guess let's say he was like 9 or 10 when the Tavares return game happened. And I'm sure that, I'm assuming he's a Leafs fan from Toronto or Ontario. I'm sure that was a big story. And like, he probably remembers that and was probably like,
that's a good
dude,
point.
why are these people so mad? And I'm sure his dad was like, well, he used to play for them and he signed with somebody else. Like, they don't like that. And he probably was like, whoa, really? Or maybe somebody just told him about that. But I got to think that he knows.
Yeah.
He knows.
He's, I made the joke now a couple of times with like comparing him and Hagens, and I kept saying like Matthew Schaefer, it has the most Long Island name, like even more than James Hagens. Like everyone knows that Matthew Schaefer on Long Island, and the way he's talking about it, and like he's like, yeah, like I talked to my brother and my dad, and we all think like this already kind of feels like home. And I think I might be paraphrasing there a bit, but that was the gist of what he said. Yeah. I'm like, I mean, are you sure you weren't born here, man? Like, you get it, and so. And he had a huge smile on his face, and
yes,
and I actually noticed this about this draft class particularly. It seemed like these guys, like, we're so used to the John Tavares mold. Go up to the draft, get your jersey, smile, shake Jason Bukala's hand, and say like, "Oh yeah, classy organization. I'm honored. Tons of good history. Even if you get drafted by the Seattle Kraken, you're like." Organization with great history. I can't wait to join. So many greats have worn the sweater, etc. These guys aren't feeding those lines, and it's not just the Islanders players in this draft, but it feels like a lot of them were like more into coloring outside the lines a bit, and Schaefer himself for sure. I mean, and he's got his own a totally unique story, and to begin with, but every time he speaks, it's not. Yeah, just my dad told me about the dynasty years, and obviously I've watched the league the past years, and I know the Islanders. They had Trotz and whatever. It's like, yeah, man, like I got to try one of these. What are they called? Bacon egg bagels. Like, it's so great. Just keep asking him questions, and I just want to hear him talk, and so.
Yeah, no, it's great. The personality is great. And that goes, like, obviously Schaefer's taking the lion's share of the attention. But again, I highly recommend if you have a chance, go to the Islanders site and take a look at those videos. And it's just like, they're very relaxed. Everybody's got a, smile on their face. Everybody's having a good time. I really enjoyed George's one in particular was a good one. Eiserman, I think, was the first one to talk, and he had a lot of energy and was all about, he knows he's going to go back, but I mean, obviously this is the second time around. I think Richie's was good too. Like it just, I was so, I don't want to say mad, but I was just like, man, I can't believe we haven't had this in so long. And it's a weird feeling. Again, we talk about being energized. You get an energy from these guys in July or late June that generally you shouldn't have for hockey, but we had it. And I'm like, now are all these guys going to become superstars? I don't know. I mean, again, you can't extrapolate anything from that scrimmage at all. Prokhorov apparently looked really, really good. Dude doesn't speak English. He's going back to Russia. Maybe he works out. Who knows? I think Finley scored a goal. Finley and Nelson to me are kind of becoming sort of interchangeable. Like I'm not sure who's who, but I think Finley scored a goal. That was pretty cool. That's fine. Schaefer for the first half kind of looked a little bit out of sorts, but then you remember this dude hasn't played a competitive game since January when he broke his collarbone. So give him a break, right? But it's been a long week or so for the kid. So you can't extrapolate absolutely nothing from this at all. Even Rocky Thompson was like, yeah, we're not really here to like talk about who's here to, performance wise or anything. But it's just great to like see these faces and see this. And this is what makes me think that like we are turning a corner. We're going to see some new guys. I mean, again, we've talked about this before in this episode. We talked about this earlier. A year ago or a year and a half ago, the number one prospect this team had was Matthew Maggio. And it's like, he's here. We don't know what his future is going to be. William Dufour, the other guy, he just got waived. Like he was just let go by the Avalanche, who didn't even qualify him. So we've come a long way. And it's not about the scrimmage. It's not about who did what at camp or whatever. It's just about seeing these dudes and kind of falling in love with them a little bit. And I think for a lot of them, that's actually going on. Okay. Thank you for reminding me to talk about the scrimmage. Okay. That leaves us a few minutes to talk about what went on at free agency. I'm not going to list all of them because it was a lot. But a lot of guys were signing fairly reasonable contracts. There were a couple of big outliers. I might as well just start with the guy who signed today because he had to be late for the party. But if you haven't heard yet, Nikolai Ehlers is now a Carolina Hurricane for the next 6 years with a cap hit of $8.5 million. I guess he decided to play. He got tired of Winnipeg, so he just decided to come to Winnipeg East, a team that's super duper good in the regular season, and then just kind of stalls out before the Stanley Cup final. It sucks when these guys end up in our division, but what are you going to do? He's here now, Nikolai Ehlers. Anthony Beauvillier getting a nice contract extension with the Capitals at $2.75 million a year for the next 2 years. I'm scrolling down TSN's link here. They have a nice big red major signing thing for a few of these guys. So Dmitry Orlov signs with the Sharks, Brent Burns with the Avalanche, Gustav Nyquist with the Jets. You scroll down a long way to find the next major signing because a lot of these dudes, were again signed very reasonable contracts. No Ryan McLeod with the Buffalo Sabres doesn't count. Neither does Michael Granlund with the Anaheim Ducks. Pat Verbeek continues to do some tough negotiating, giving out some of the worst contracts on July 1st. It's actually quite funny. How come Jonathan Drouin isn't a major signing? TSN, I got a problem with that. So Vladislav Gavrikov signed with the Rangers, 7 years, $7 million. This was one of those ones that made me think, yeah, I think that Romanov deal is pretty darn good. Brock Besser shocked everybody, swerved everybody, and stayed in Vancouver.
I love that one. I love that. That made me so happy. The Canucks are great, man. Like you know how we always like scoff at the league is better when the Sabres are good, right? Right, Friedge? Well, the league is better when the Canucks are just here, around, and I love it. So
apparently they wanted to sign Christian Dvorak, who signed a 1 year, $5.4 million contract with the Flyers, which didn't make any sense to me whatsoever. And apparently when they couldn't, they circled back to Besser.
Amazing.
And he was like, yeah, okay.
Let me unpack my shit. Hold on.
Yeah, exactly. Who else? They also signed Thatcher Demko to a 3-year contract worth $8.5 million a year. I mean, he's good when he's healthy, but he hasn't been healthy. The other major defenseman signing that made me think about the Romanov deal in a different way was Ivan Provorov signing for 7 years, $8.5 million, re-signing, I should say, with Columbus. 8.5 versus 6.5. Yeah, I'll take the 8.5. I'll take the 6.5 in the 1 more year rather than the 7 years at 8.5. That's a lot for Provorov. I've never seen it with him. I don't get it, but what are you gonna do? Speaking of staying put, Marchand, Bennett, Aaron Ekblad, all shockingly decided to not leave Florida for Toronto and all remain with the Panthers. They're going to shoot for cup number 3. Best of luck to you guys. We'll see how that goes. And as we mentioned before, Mitch Marner didn't sign with the Golden Knights. He signed with the Leafs. They traded him to the Golden Knights for Nick Waugh. A ton of dudes signed a ton of contracts. Some of them were completely insane. My biggest takeaway from this whole thing, and this includes the Islanders deals, which again, I thought by and large were pretty good, is that we should all be extremely thankful that Ken Holland looked at the Islanders offer and was like, I'd rather stay on the West Coast. I'd rather go to a team that was a little bit closer to contention. I'd rather get the LA Kings job. We should all be extremely thankful for that, because these deals that he signed on this day, Sam Bolduc was one of them. That's actually one of the better ones. But he signed Cody Ceci. Who was the other guy he signed? Brian Dumoulin. I didn't even know Brian Dumoulin was still in the league.
Corey Perry.
Corey. I can understand the Perry thing a little bit, but those two guys, I don't know. I don't know what Ken Holland was thinking at all. So that was my big takeaway. Again, you can go through the list if you want, but what was your big takeaway from free agency frenzy? Well, we're gonna get to the show in a minute, but I'm just talking about player wise.
Yeah, the thing I took away was that everything we heard about in the lead up, and this is the case every year, which is why we make fun of it. There's always these kind of funny PR pushes.
Mitch Marner might sign for just 4 years.
Right.
He might just be a short term deal.
The professional liars, right? The professional liars
absolutely.
came out in full force, and there's always the same lines that sometimes they basically just plagiarize off one another, and speak into their own echo chambers, which are the same echo chamber, and they don't realize it. Hey, Chris Johnston, your crowd, your audience is the same exact audience that is listening to Elliot Friedman. And Elliot Friedman's is the same that's reading the tweets from Frank Saravalli. So we know you guys are all saying the same exact thing and saying the same exact news. And to hear all of them say the Ducks they're going to be major players on July 1st. They want to win. Right. The Buffalo Sabres. Right. They're not sitting this one on the sidelines. They want to win.
Utah wants to make a huge move.
Ryan Smith is going to make a huge splash on at the draft around July 1st. Huge splash. They're going to trade that number 4 overall pick. You can take that one to the bank, and then they're also going to do something crazy on July 1st, like sign Brandon Tanev to a 3-year deal.
You could see them go for Brad Marchand. I know he just won the cup in Florida and has been drunk for the last 3 weeks, but he definitely wants to play in Utah. That's what I've heard. Yeah.
And what's great? So Utah's biggest deal. Yeah, they traded for JJ Peterka. But even after that, they're like, Utah's going to be a huge player, and then they did nothing else. And they want to change. They want to change the DNA of their team, and get bigger. And nastier, and they did not do that.
They did sign Scott Perunovich, though.
They signed Scott Perunovich. Yes, Perunovich and Riley. Our guy in Bolduc. We haven't heard where Hudson Fasching is going to play next year, but it might not be on this continent, in my estimation. But so after all this, after being told all of this for months and months and months, as I said, the Utah Mammoth come away with Peterka. Okay. The Sabres go out and get Zach Jones. They get Alex Lyon, Justin Danforth, and then the Ducks. Oh, Frege, do the Ducks want to win? They badly want to be there. Pat Verbeek cannot stand missing the playoffs one more time. He just won't stand for it. So they're going to be huge players in and around July 1st. And the Anaheim Ducks, even after trading for Chris Kreider and Ryan Poehling and Jacob Trouba last season, who has an $8 million deal. Even after adding all of that and then signing Michael Granlund to a $7 million contract, AAV, the Anaheim Ducks have $29 million in cap space left. So, Frege, I don't know if the Ducks want to win. I don't know. It seems to me that the Ducks are totally content with going. They have the most cap space, and I don't think they're at the floor yet. So Congrats to the Ducks for trying to win. The Blue Jackets were waiting in the weeds. They stayed waiting. It's just I don't know. I don't know what to even say anymore.
It's the professional liars were doing their thing all summer long, and it's been I don't know what they're thinking. Like the whole they could take a short-term deal, or again, like the Florida Panthers can't keep all three of these guys. Like they're going to lose one of them, and it might be Ekblad, and he would be perfect for the Leafs, or it might be imagine the DNA change of maybe Marchand coming in and changing a team's. I heard that somebody was actually there. I shouldn't say somebody. There have been multiple articles about the Bruins are going to make a big play for Brad Marchand in the UFA market. Dude, they had Marchand. If they wanted to sign Marchand, they could have just signed him. Like what? Has anybody said isn't this is stupid? What is going on? And go figure. All those guys want to stay playing in Sunrise / Fort Lauderdale for a team that just won back-to-back Stanley Cups. And people were really convincing themselves that Brad Marchand wanted to go play in Utah, or Brad Marchand wanted to go play in Toronto, or Aaron Ekblad would fit in perfectly with Team X or Y. Dude, Aaron Ekblad was never going to leave the Panthers. He's only ever played for the Panthers. It took him this long to get good. What? Why would he leave? It doesn't make any sense. Nobody makes none of these things make ever any sense. And it's clear, like you said, not only is it these guys regurgitating each other's tweets, but it's clearly these guys in group chats with a certain number of GMs who are telling them, we're going to do this. We want to do this. We want to sign these guys.
I can't say exactly who we're going after, but we want to be good next year. Whoa!
It's Bill Armstrong. It's Pat Verbeek. It's Steve Eiserman.
and then a select group of agents. Mitch Marner's dad, and Bill Guerin is in another one where he's saying, "Guys, just remind them that we don't have the Zach Parise and Ryan Suter money on the books anymore." So
Kevin Adams of Buffalo is another one. And the guy who's not in the group chat is Bill Zito, the guy who runs the 2-time Stanley Cup champion. He ain't in the group chat. All these other yabos are in the group chat. Bill Zito has got his own thing going on, and he's doing pretty well. So leave him alone. So it was a wild. I mean, it was a lot of. I mean, honestly, again, just to bring it back to the Islanders, when I looked at who they had signed, and who was going elsewhere. I'm like, I'm not feeling any FOMO here at all with these guys. Who cares? The Gavrikov thing was funny too. The Rangers really want Gavrikov. They really want him to go to free agency. They're going to make a big play for LA Kings defenseman Vladislav Gavrikov. And then these signs are that's the one we all knew was coming. The Rangers have signed Gavrikov. Yes. And I'm just okay.
And you know what's the best part about that is there was no mention of the T word at all by any of them. They were this one was done weeks ago, but it was totally on the up and up. There was no, of course, because this is it's the Rangers. The Rangers would never do anything like that. As we saw last year, the Rangers never get themselves into trouble. The league is really trying to make an example out of someone with tampering. But what about the Rangers? The league is really trying to make an example out of somebody. Come, it was just so watching the show you're going to eviscerate and the Gavrikov signing go and nobody was there was a lot of talk of tampering with the Marner situation, but this one is totally kosher, even though kosher. Right. The second that the Kings were eliminated, everyone's that guy's going to be a Ranger.
When you said the T word, I thought you were going to say Trouba, because this is apparently what Gavrikov is. He's the Trouba replacement. He can bring Adam Fox back to what he was. And I'm okay. And I don't to me, I've never seen a guy who's just a guy get this kind of treatment. They're making it sound like they signed, Rod Langway or something. And listen, maybe he ends up being a superstar for them. I don't know. But I don't know if anybody's ever watched a game and was who this team needs? Vladislav Gavrikov. That's who needs to fit right into this team. And to steal a wrestling term, Vladislav Gavrikov has not sold one ticket to any single person ever, right? Nobody's ever bought a ticket to go watch Vladislav Gavrikov ply his trade. And I don't know this man from Adam. I really don't. But all I know is I've never once thought about, that's the guy they need on this team. So whatever, but he's a Ranger now for a very, very long time. So I'm sure we'll come to hate him. I'm sure he's going to lay some illegal hit on some Islander, and we'll all hate him, but that's the end of that. So you just mentioned the show that I watched, and that would have been TSN's Trade Center. Oh, excuse me. I keep saying that because it just rolls off the tongue. TSN's Free Agent Frenzy. It comes with ESPN Plus, so I end up watching it. I have not watched SportsCenter's free agency thing because I can't, or I could probably, but it's easier to watch this thing on ESPN. I'm going to make this very short because we've been talking for a very long time. I say this every year, but I mean it this time. I am done watching this show. I'm absolutely done watching the Free Agent Frenzy. I highly doubt anybody from TSN is listening to this right now, but if you are, or you have a means of getting this into the ears of somebody at TSN, please let them know that this one guy from New Jersey / Long Island says that this show is the worst. It is absolute garbage. And the reason is because it's basically got nothing to do with free agency at all. It's just their sports radio shows in a different setting doing their thing while these deals are going on and that they're not talking about. So listen, I get it. Sometimes there's no deals that are being signed. Sometimes, like this year, a lot of the deals are for guys who are depth guys. Like, they're not marquee names. It's just not, I mean, no offense to Jonathan Drouin, but like, he's not a huge marquee name, but like, there's still, this is what I want to talk about. Like, they went through a whole thing. I mean, they talked about this for probably 15 or 20 minutes. I'm not even joking about Connor McDavid being a potential unrestricted free agent next year. Like, this is the free agent frenzy day for this year, not next year. You guys have 364 other days of the year on the radio where you can talk about Connor McDavid's UFA candidacy. It doesn't have to be today. Give Connor McDavid the day off. He has earned it, right? We don't need to talk about McDavid today unless the Oilers sign somebody to play with him or something. Like, we don't need to hear that. I want to hear about who the Oilers are signing right now, or in this case, who they're losing. Corey Perry got talked about a little bit. That's about it. At one point, they started talking about, of course, Canada versus Team USA in the next Four Nations face-off, which is what, 2 years away, something like that. This starts happening. Of course, there are deals being signed, but they're talking about this. And I'm like, you know what? I had gone to the gym earlier that morning. I'm like, I'm going to go jump in the shower. I go in the shower. I come back. I'm not kidding. They're still talking about this. I come back. The graphic is still up. USA versus Canada. It's should McDavid or Sidney Crosby be the captain? Is Crosby going to be on the team? Is he going to be a Penguin? That nobody cares about this. I want to know who is signing where and what that means. That's what I want to know on Free Agent Frenzy. I don't care about this sports talk radio bullshit that I can hear all year long. It's ridiculous. Give it a rest. We're only asking for you to give it a rest 2 days out of the year. Trade deadline, free agency. That's it. Like the whole, what team? They went another 15-minute thing about, well, which Canadian team is going to end the Stanley Cup drought? Now everybody's picking Montreal because of Noah Dobson. Okay, great. Good. Sound. I got bad news for you guys. But again, who cares? You guys talk about this all the time. I want to hear about free agents. I want to know who is signing where, for how much, and what it means. Why did the Rangers sign Vladislav Gavrikov? I want to know. Why? Why were they so hot after this guy? Absolutely nothing. We heard they signed there. Yeah, we all knew it was coming. All right, now back to James Duthie. And they just went back to it. Like, so I'm done. I'm done watching this. I'm going to get all my information from, social media, whatever. I can't take this anymore. It's just sports talk radio bullshit when interesting stuff is happening that they're just simply not talking about. And they just don't care. So goodbye, TSN. I'm done. And the other reason I'm not watching it anymore is because Bob McKenzie has officially retired. He is done. This is his last working day, he said, and he's just going to go into full-time retirement. He was kind of semi-retired until now, but that's it. That's all I got to say. I can't take this anymore. It's just TSN radio with a big fancy studio. And then every once in a while, they'll throw it to the insiders and be like, oh yeah, Ryan McLeod is signed with the Buffalo Sabres. Oh, okay. Thanks. Back to you guys. Back to the goalie panel. Okay, great. Who cares? Trey Fix-Walensky is signed with the Rangers. Oh, okay. That's great. Then they I couldn't believe what I was hearing while I'm watching these signings all go down on either Twitter or Blue Sky. Meanwhile, they're just talking about the same bullshit they talk about all year long. It's
the goalie panel. Gino and the goalies.
That's right. We need to hear from the goalies.
God. Yeah, it's terrible. It's so bad. And you have to know that going into it, which we do. And and even then it's still finds a way to upset you. And I thought you summed it up well. So and we've been going long, so I won't go too into it. But the one thing I did take away from it is what you said, right? Bob McKenzie's retiring.
Yeah.
And they did like a nice send off for him, and they had like all the the pundits and the talent like standing behind him as they gave him a silver stick, and it was nice. And they kind of like did like a pan across the line of them, and it's like all the professional liars that TSN employs standing next to each other, LeBron and CJ and Darren Drager. I was surprised that Paul Marner wasn't there, like rubbing Drake's shoulders. I was looking at them and I'm like, I wonder if these guys realize like all the nice things that people are saying about Bob McKenzie, right? Like just the best to ever do it, really genuinely good guy, total pro, as straight as like the arrow pointing north on the compass, all that kind of stuff, right? Are they thinking like, that's me? Because it's not like you guys like the reason we love and are gonna miss Bob McKenzie is because now we gotta, this is what he left behind is you guys. Like it's so much worse. Yeah, the landscape, the sports media and hockey media landscape is so much worse, and like the insider cottage industry sucks. So if these guys could be more like Bob McKenzie, it would have been a lot better and less infuriating. So that was my main takeaway there. Yeah. Obviously we got to hear a lot of Tragically Hip, which is nice. As a fan of the hip, I do like some Tragically Hip, but other than that, I mean, it's got to be pound for pound the worst television show on the planet.
Terrible. And again, like I get it. It comes from a place of like, well, what if there are no signings? What if we got to have something to talk about in case there's no signings? Because they've had years in which there was nothing to talk about because dudes signed early. And in fact, that looked like what this year was going to be, but it wasn't. There was still like literally 200 signings, right? I mean, it's a lot of guys got signed, and I get that they're not all superstars, but like if Curtis Lazar has signed with the Oilers, I want to hear about it because I want to know. That's what I'm watching this for. I'm not watching it to hear Jeff O'Neill and Brian Hayes and Jamie McLennan go on and on about, who's going to captain the Leafs next year. Well, like whatever, like I don't need to hear this. Give it a break for one day. It's just, it's infuriating. I'm just like, this is just not what I want out of this show. And so I am done. I'm not watching it. Goodbye. If anybody has a link to the Sportsnet one, maybe I'll give that a shot. But then I got to listen to Frege, glad handing with Kevin Bieksa. So maybe I'll just kind of skip it, but we'll see. Anyway, this has been a very long episode. Again, we got to start shortening these episodes next season. Because these are getting really long. But again, it is our season finale. It's episode 340, which is nice. We'll be back full time in October. If you want to hear more stuff, head on over to the Patreon. I'll throw it to you real quick before I do the whole spiel. It's been a long season. It's been a very busy week. I don't know if there's any way to kind of sum all this up, but I mean, as little fun as we had with the Islanders on the ice, I would say that you and I always find a way to have fun together on this show. We'll have a way to find fun. We'll have fun all summer long, doing all kinds of goofball stuff over at the Patreon. But we hope that this has been entertaining for the people who listen, even when the team is, or maybe especially when the team is not entertaining on the ice. Would you say that that's about accurate? And you feel the same way?
I would. Yeah, I think so. I think I'm just shocked at how, just nice it feels right now. So
yeah, definitely. We should also say, by the way, there's one guy we also forgot that was an Islander and is no longer. Mike Riley signed with the Hurricane. So good luck to him. It was nice for a minute to also have been right. So we've nailed two in the course of this show: Mike Riley and Jonathan Drouin in very different years. So yeah, okay. Well, that's about it. So yeah, become a member at patreon.com/IslandersAnxiety for ad-free bonus episodes all summer long. Otherwise, you can find our episodes on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, YouTube, places. Our theme song is Morning Haze by Family Dinner. Listen to more of their music on Spotify. Read Lighthouse Hockey every single day, including throughout the summer, for your most up-to-date Islanders news and discussion. Thank you, Dom, for everything. Islanders Anxiety podcasts are part of the Fans First Sports Network. Shop VintageIceHockey.com. I was talking to Kevin the other day. We might have some cool stuff coming for you down the pipe. Try wines from the Pinot Project. Shout out again our friend David Skurnick. Mike, where can everybody find you on Twitter?
The Big Lebowski with 2 E's.
Follow Mike at the Big Lebowski. You'll see pictures of him and his lovely family at the Duck all summer long. Any final thoughts on everything that we have discussed in this second very, very long episode of the week?
Yeah, we're getting to 5 hours combined, which is a lot. But
hey, you can't say you don't get your money's worth. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, exactly. I do want to just say, since this is our last episode of Islanders Anxiety until next season, I don't know, training camp or whenever I can never remember when we actually do come back.
We never know.
Yeah. Obviously, a thank you, heartfelt thank you to anyone who's listened, and especially if we've run into each other at anything. I was at the brand new show last night at UBS Arena, the Bronx Zoo today. I didn't run into anyone who listens to the show at either of those events, but I am tired. But anyways, it's just a huge thank you. It's a lot of fun for us, and of course, a massive thank you to you for all the work that you do on the back end, which is basically everything. And hopefully, we do shorten these episodes, not just for the sake of our listeners, but also for you and your sanity. But
thankfully, hard. I'm off tomorrow. But yeah, they're getting a little long.
They are long. So it's a lot of fun. It's been a trying season, but it ended on a ridiculously out of nowhere high note, and that made it a lot of fun. And it's been, the last like 4 or 5 episodes, basically since they won the lottery, I've been chomping at the bit to get on and talk about the Islanders. And now we gotta wait 3 more months or whatever to do it again. So that's unless you come to the Patreon. But so thank you to you and to everyone who's listened all along. It's always fun, and hopefully we can continue to do this and meet more people.
Absolutely. Well, I thank you as you thank me, and I thank all of our listeners, and you just summed it up perfectly. After all we've been through, we're on a bit of a high right now, and I want to bottle it and hold on to it all summer long. So thank you for listening. Again, join us over at the Patreon. We'll be back in October at some point. Trust me, you'll hear about it, and we'll start looking towards the next season as well. Thank you very much for listening, and we will talk to you again soon when the next season comes around. All right, take care. Talk to you later. Bye-bye.